Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
It's here. It's time. There's always a buzz in the air when you hit this moment.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
We will develop men. We will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
I think of him as this hawk. Before long, he's going to be swooping in on those quarterbacks.
And they embody what the school is about. It's about getting into hard situations and getting ourselves out. It's about working hard. It's about doing amazing things.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well. Another day of Ryan Brauninger here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse and CC Creations. It is TexAgs Live. Hello, Bronny. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, David. I have a question. When you go places with your kids, probably not now with the twins because they're old and grown and they're probably past this phase of their life, but maybe your daughters, do they call you cringe? No, never?
No. I'm sure there's been a time or two, but no, for the most part, no.
I sat next to, they're very well behaved. I sat next to them a couple of PKOs ago.
Yep. The girls or the boys?
The girls.
Okay.
And while you were on stage attempting to do
stand-up routine,
your stand-up routine, which often starts at 8 o'clock Monday through Friday on this radio show.
It's actually my partner who does more of it.
Olin's like more slapstick comedy and, you know, perhaps walk the line of the FCC. You are very much, I get it. My dad was this way. Very much like dad humor, cringe humor. And Isla, on one of your jokes, she like turned and looked at Annalise and was.
Oh, she does that. If anyone's going to do it, it's Isla. Yeah, for sure.
She made this like face at her like, did dad really just do that? I'm so embarrassed.
It happens to all of us. It'll happen to you.
I can't wait.
Like I used to listen to my brother do dad jokes. I'm like, it'll never be me. And the other day, the kids told me, "Go, Dad, you do a lot of dad jokes."
Just lean into it, right? Just
I am who I am.
You know what? But Quinn Buchanan's dad jokes were probably a lot different than Christian and Cruz Nuno's dad jokes.
Yeah, a little different. I want to start a topic based on something Paul Feinbaum said. Okay, he says it's college football playoffs are a minimum for Lane Kiffin this year, and I used to not think that way, but I was talked into it. And then the follow-up to that is who else? Who else in the SEC? Bare minimum expectation to make the college football playoffs. Is A&M in that category? We can discuss.
Well, it makes me think of the conversation that I saw on social media yesterday between Brandon Walker and Josh Pate about Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. And they were talking about what 8-4 means at Alabama this year, and Brandon Walker was of the opinion that would get Kalen DeBoer fired, and Josh Pate was like, under no circumstances Alabama firing Kalen DeBoer. And I think that we talked about this a little bit yesterday, I think people view Kalen DeBoer through this lens of Nick Saban unfairly, and it goes back to the old saying, you never want to be the guy that follows the guy.
Yep.
And that's what Kalen DeBoer did, and nobody was going to be able to maintain what Nick Saban had done at Alabama. But I also think that's crazy that if they would fire him after making the playoffs and winning a game last year, if they go 8-4 and don't make it with a huge question mark at the sport's most important position, I think that's way beyond the pale of rational thought.
I agree. And when I ask this question, I'm not saying like fireable. I'm just saying in general, the bare minimum expectations are a playoff or it's a bad year. I think Alabama does fall into that category, though.
Yeah, I would think that they would say, it's a disappointing season if we don't make the playoff. I think that if you phrase your question like that, I think we have a little bit more of a genuine discussion about it because I think for coaching expectations for like Lane Kiffin, if Paul Feinbaum said that the minimum expectation is that LSU makes the playoffs, boy, they had to get a lot of stuff right in this offseason with the amount of player movement that they had. And regardless of whether you think those players are talented or not, we won't know until the games are being played. We also don't know. I mean, again, like my brain always fires in the baseball realm.
Yep.
We just saw Jay Johnson do it. Tried to replace a bunch of guys out of the transfer portal that were from varying levels of program. whether it be like a mid-major or coming in from a P4 school, and it didn't work out. And they had the number 1 rated transfer portal class going into the last baseball season, and LSU had a really highly regarded football transfer portal class, but you don't know. Like Sam Leavitt,
You don't know.
you don't know. Like,
No.
I think he's a good player.
That's conventional thinking. That's like the absolute like right way to think about it. The way I believe it was Jordan Rogers who said this on their show, maybe Nick can look it up, was Lane Kiffin, this is what he does. He takes a brand new roster every year and makes them playoff worthy. Last year was a new roster. The year before that was a new roster. That's what he does. So if he leaves Ole Miss with less resources and gets everything in the world that he wants at LSU, the expectation is this team should be in the playoffs year 1. That's how Jordan Rogers described it. I didn't listen to all of Feinbaum's thing, but I understand that thinking. Like, hey, you got to the your team got to the semifinals without you, with the roster you made at Ole Miss, with really your second choice at quarterback. You have everything you want here and more. This is LSU. We expect the playoffs every year. Like for Coach Elko, of course it's a disappointment if they don't make the playoffs. That's every year, right? If you're one of the big spenders in college football, it's a disappointment. I don't think it's the bare minimum. I think the bare minimum that people would be, it was a good year, is 9-3.
Yeah, 9-3, that would at least get you in the discussion for the playoff. When you lose those 3 games would obviously play a big factor in that. But to go back to your point about LSU and Lane Kiffin, that's a valid point. If Jordan Rogers, like, I understand what he's saying there, but I would also turn it around and say, okay, like if you've been running a business that has done well, and maybe it's a local business, maybe you're running a business that's successful in Bryan College Station, and then you go get headhunted by one of the big dogs, and maybe you're in energy or oil and gas, whatever, and one of the big dogs in Houston says, all right, we want you to run our company. Are your practices and methods, the way that you ran them in Bryan College Station, going to be able to be, are those same practices going to make you efficient on a bigger, much larger scale? Just because you have more stuff, that doesn't mean you know how to use it all.
No.
Whereas, like Mike Elko, one of the things that made me bullish about him leaving Duke and coming to Texas A&M was like, I know the guy. Like, I know how savvy he is. I know how smart he is. I know how kind of regimented he is to his organizational structure and how things are supposed to work. I thought if you give that guy these facilities, these resources, he could turn it into something. I don't know enough about Lane Kiffin to say that yes, he can or no, he can't, but it is to your, like on your side of the ledger or Jordan Rogers' side of the ledger, it's understandable. Like, oh, he's done it at a lower level. Now you're giving him even more. It makes sense. But I would also go, that depends on the human being that's making those decisions.
But let's again realize whose expectations are we talking about? There are sane people that are probably hiring folks that are like, you know what, we need to give him 2 years to develop his system, whatever coach it is. And then there's fans. And I think even fans at A&M, at all places, look at things differently. So when we talk about expectations, I think talk show hosts and fan expectations are probably different than decision makers.
I think sometimes they're one and the same. They're melded together. And I think there are a lot of people that sit in front of microphones across the country each and every week, especially as we get into football season, that are passion merchants, and they live off of the highs and lows of the emotions of fans.
Yep.
And we try not to do that, but there are people in the country that make a good living by doing that. I've gotten really into soccer and some soccer podcasts. That's a massive deal in Europe and in England, is you just have these fans that start these channels, these fan channels, that they make all of their clicks, all of their views come on being passionate merchants off the fans. Like, whatever people are angry about, they're going to highlight it and accentuate it to make it bigger and more emotion as possible. For here, though, like for LSU or for Texas A&M, I think, those are 2 different camps. But you're looking at an A&M fan base right now that's been very pleased with how the football program has progressed. And I think Mike Elko's got a ton of goodwill built up. So outside of absolutely tanking this year, I think people are going to go, he's still the right guy for the job without question.
Oh, outside of tanking, yes. I even think like a year that we would be like, what the heck happened? Just for hypotheticals. If they went 7-5, but there was a reason why they went 7-5, somebody gets hurt, whatever. Okay, just like for Lane Kiffin, I don't think he's going to lose his job if they make the playoffs or not. But if Sam Leavitt is not good or he gets hurt, I think there's going to be a different way that we look at that season for them.
Yeah.
But if A&M had a rough year because of whatever reason, I think people are going to be like, all right, next year, reset. It's a reload. They had new quarterback, new offensive line, new defensive line. Let's see what it looks like next year. He has built up that cachet. Kalen DeBoer, different situation, doesn't have that cachet. If he did what he did at Alabama at, give me a school, Arkansas, they'd be throwing a parade for him.
Sure. Well, and another thing with Lane Kiffin is he's built up this bravado around him in Oxford, Mississippi. How strong can those pillars that he's put up around himself as a human being, how strong are they in the face of real pressure in Baton Rouge, where it only ratchets up, 10 times? We'll see. Like, there's also that element to this is like Lane Kiffin, you've never had more eyeballs on you than now. And most people would say that's what he lives for. That's why he handled himself the way he did during the Ole Miss exit. Every time he gets a chance to be on television, every time he gets a chance to be in front of a microphone, he says something that makes you believe this is how he wants to operate, kind of on the borderline head coach troll, and get everybody talking about him and all the eyeballs. But those people across the Sabine River, it's different. It is different. And so how does he, let's say they start 3-3. What does that feel like? What does that sound like? And how does he combat that with so many eyeballs on him?
So, and I also think
it's one of the more fascinating. LSU's fascinating this year. Yeah. I also think Oklahoma's fascinating because Oklahoma's getting a lot of love, and John Mateer has been, for the most part, around where Marcel Reed is being ranked in these preseason quarterback rankings in the SEC, which I think is funny. But and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I got real questions about Oklahoma. The ability to put the ball in the end zone consistently, I think, is going to be a major question mark, even if you believe their defense is really, really good, and I do, especially with Brent Venables. You got to go back. Think about the Houston Texans defense last year. People were calling them historically good. They lost 5 games in the regular season. Like, you've got to be able to put the ball in the end zone. So, like, Oklahoma, to me, is one of the more volatile teams because if they have one turned ankle or one pulled hamstring at the wrong spot, I think they could really, really struggle.
I want to go back to expectations for a moment before we get into 25 and 25. I think it depends on your history too, right? Like we spoke about Alabama. In soccer, a world that you're very familiar with, my team, if they don't make it to the final 2 or win it all, it's a disastrous year and people get fired. Arsenal had a great year this year, right? For them, and I think they have had a proud history as well. For them, I wouldn't say it's the exact same kind of barometer, but getting into the Final 4 of a Champions League is considered success.
Well, there's going to be some people pissed this morning that we're drawing comparisons to English Premier League or La Liga teams.
You want to use baseball?
No. But what I'm saying is for Arsenal right now, Mikel Arteta's been their coach for 6 years. They were patient with him. Yeah. And they let him build it the way he wants to build it. And they were second 3 years in a row, and people were getting upset. And I'm like, man, you're this close. Like, the guy is showing that he can put you in contention, and he finally got over the hump last year. And so, like, I get this microwave society that we live in. The player movement makes you more viable to flip your roster and be competitive in year one. But I still think in terms of, like, if you've got a guy that's really trying to implement a culture and the way things are supposed to go, like A&M does across the street right now, like Kalen DeBoer is trying to do. Yep. I think Kalen DeBoer is trying to implement his culture. It's probably very different than Nick Saban, but I think you've got to allow that unless the practices of said culture are completely non-congruent with winning. Like, you allow guys to show up late, you don't make them do stuff like it. That's not a culture. But if that's kind of what you're harvesting, then yeah, you can probably make a move before you let the guy really settle in. But I would like to. I think Kalen DeBoer is pretty good. I'm not convinced that he is going to win a championship at Alabama, but I think he can keep them in contention to do so.
Sometimes you can be really good, and it's just not the right place for you for whatever reason. The timing, the people around you, but they did just give him an extension, so I don't think he's going anywhere regardless.
Well, I think the extension is they can get out of it. It's not like stone cold lead pipe. He's here for a long time. I think there was some writing in there that can get them out if they need to get out of it. But you look around the league, and I would say that some of the more intriguing programs, especially with playoff expectations, I wouldn't have LSU there right now.
Yeah. By the way, this is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations here in the Rollo Insurance Studios. Time for 25 and 25, presented by Paragon Financial Advisors, an Aggie-owned independent fee-only fiduciary serving families and business owners nationwide. Visit paragon-adv.com. Number 19, ladies and gentlemen, is Travon Ball.
Transfer offensive lineman out of South Carolina who, when the Aggies were going through their options in the transfer portal, I remember making phone calls about Travon Ball whenever we heard that A&M had some momentum. And I actually talked to an NFL scout that had seen South Carolina play a few times and then obviously was watching some of their guys in preparation for the NFL draft. And so he had poured over the tape for South Carolina offensively. And he said, this is come from a guy that really knows football that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. He's like, if you believe that Adam Cushing is really good at his job, and why wouldn't we believe that based off the evidence that we have? If you believe that Adam Cushing is really good at his job, then Travon Ball is a guy that you should get excited about because there are attributes on tape. And the guy walks in our office physically, he looks like $1 million, like just big, strong dude. And there's stuff on tape that makes you excited. And he was just playing with some inconsistencies in his game at South Carolina. Could that have been a product of the environment or the coaching? Who knows? But all I know is that if you get him or getting him under the same roof as Adam Cushing with Mike Elko, I think could lead to his best football and put him in a position to be not highly sought after, but at least on the NFL radar if he plays well this year. And so much like Mark Naboo yesterday, I think all of these guys, the offensive linemen, each and every one of them are going to be massively important for this Texas A&M football team because of the turnover that they experience at the position.
We'll have a lot more on Travon Ball when Billy joins us here later on in the program. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, multiple ways to do it. You can call us up on the Buffy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. That number, 979-693-1150. Or you can text that number on the Catalyst Pure Performance Energy text line, 979-693-1150. We go around the room. We go left to right. We go behind the glass through the television. We say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
How are you?
I'm good. And Bronny, this is maybe you can help me fill in some blanks here, but MLB trade deadline yesterday came and went. A few Aggies got dealt. A.J. Minter got traded from the Mets to the Twins a little bit earlier before the deadline yesterday. And in a deal between the Giants and the Yankees, Caden Kent got dealt to the San Francisco Giants. So he's already changing teams there. But I think that's it in terms of Aggies. Brooks Raley got traded.
Brooks Raley got traded to the Philadelphia Phillies. Really quick Brooks Raley story. Great dude. He's only like a year younger than me, so it makes me feel I'm holding on to whatever youth I have left. Yeah. I'm not fully unk until everybody that I grew up with and played against is out of Major League Baseball and retired. But Brooks Raley, 38, 39 years old, still playing. And whenever I moved here to College Station to get my master's degree and started coaching with 12 baseball, Brooks Raley was coaching with us kind of in the offseason.
Yeah.
Brooks Raley got traded yesterday for a kid named John Spikerman, who's from Montgomery and played at Oklahoma against Texas A&M in that 2022 College World Series semifinal. John Spikerman was on that Oklahoma team. He was a lifelong 12 player as well. So yesterday we had Brooks Raley get traded, a former 12 coach, for a former 12 player in John Spikerman. He was part of that swap deal with the Phillies and the New York Mets. So that was a very much a first-time deal for us as an organization. But yeah, Brooks Raley, Caden Kent, and A.J. Minter all get dealt at the deadline.
All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein called in from the bullpen. What's up, buddy?
Morning. How are you guys doing today?
Good, buddy. What's going on with you?
Nothing much. I just wanted to get into we got a text message about that first topic you guys were talking about from Joe Orsak. He says, I believe two coaches that absolutely have to make the playoffs are not only Lane Kiffin, but Steve Sarkisian.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the boy prodigy in Texas and all the money in the world behind him. There's no excuse for him not to make it this year.
If they didn't make the playoffs, he's not getting fired, Brauning.
But the heat goes way up.
The heat goes way up.
Way up, for sure. And that's where maybe Kalen DeBoer's in the same seat. If they don't make the playoff, the heat goes way up.
But if you go 2 years in I don't care what coach you are. Hear me out. If you go multiple years, back-to-back years, not making the playoffs, if you're in the SEC and the upper tier, I believe the heat goes way up.
So how much time does John Summerall get to make the playoffs?
Depending on the situation. I think he gets at least 2 or 3 years to develop his program. I think it depends on what step. Let's say established coaches in the SEC.
Okay.
And when I say heat, it goes back to where we're talking about. Huh? Drink? Ooh.
See, like putting a hard line on it is difficult. But like you can't be black and white with every discussion. There's nuance to all this, right? Like,
but
to say like John Summerall, I think by year 3, they need to be very much in the discussion. They had such a long way to go.
Let's talk about upper tier SEC. Okay, if Heupel goes back-to-back years not getting into the playoffs, does the heat start going up?
Yes, but I don't know. Josh Heupel, they're a really interesting team this year too. But yeah, I get to yes, you're correct there.
If A&M went back-to-back years,
yes,
it's hot. It's not like you're fired. It's just like, people are just questioning. Same thing for Tennessee, A&M, Oklahoma. They made it last year, but if they went back-to-back years and didn't make it.
Well, there's also talking about a 12-team playoff, right? What if that expands to 16?
Or even more.
Then the discussion goes, okay, like getting in the playoff, whatever, you got to win games. So even that's a moving target.
All right, when we come back, the Knockout Performer of the Week, that is brought to you by TKO Equipment. Right now, we're talking 1775. One of the folks at Brian Broadcasting said, hey, you didn't bring up queso mac and cheese yesterday. I was like, you're right, because that's an Olin thing. So when Olin's not here, I sometimes ask questions of Bronny, but I like to keep it but I'm going to tell a story. There's a future story. All right, it's not even funny. It's just the facts. I'm going to tell you a factual, hopeful story. All right?
From the future.
From the future. On Thursday.
Factual story from the future, Nick.
Yep. On Thursday, we have a big wig from Houston coming up. Works for a company that we might do TV on. Okay? He said, let's go to lunch. I'm going to highly suggest we go to 1775 because when I go out to lunch, I like to go to 1775. I don't go out often, as you know. And when I do, I like to go to 1775. So this fictional character that I made up that's actually coming on Thursday, we're going to go to 1775 if you're watching the show right now. They're open Thursday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until they're sold out. 8203 Raymond Stosser Parkway in College Station. Call them up. 979-492-6241. It's 1775txbbq.com. Hey everyone, David Nuno here of TexAgs Live. I want to introduce you to the team at Holistic Planning. Got Jason Barber here, Taylor Pankratz, and also Paul Meredith. Jason, I want to start off with you. What really sets Holistic Planning apart from the others?
Yeah, so what makes us different is most financial advisors stop at investment management. On the other hand, Holistic Planning, we manage investments, taxes, and estate planning all on one team, all underneath one roof.
Now, Taylor, when everything is coordinated like that, it really helps the bottom line, doesn't it?
It really does. When your investments and taxes are working together, you stop leaving money on the table and keep more of what's yours.
Paul, Holistic Planning is trying to expand as well.
That's true. We just opened our Houston office, and we're looking for people who feel like their advisor isn't seeing the full picture, because that's exactly what we fix.
And Jason, there's other opportunities beyond that.
Definitely. If you're a financial advisor and you want to join the Holistic Planning team, we're looking to add 50 teams in the next 5 to 10 years. So check out holisticplanning.com/advisors.
All right, so if you want a team that actually coordinates everything, go to holisticplanning.com. Aggies, this one is worth it. I wish I had Olin here for it because he loves energy drinks. Catalyst Citrus Spark. This is one of the new flavors out there. Whether you're grinding through workouts, cramming for a test, or closing in on a deal, or getting ready for TexAgs Live, you never know, right? Fast becoming the go-to fuel for Aggies everywhere. Zero sugar. I'm all in for that. Or synthetic sweeteners, no artificial colors or flavors. Catalyst delivers clean, high-performance energy with smooth, crisp taste that is never syrupy, designed for both health and hustle. You want to get going, you use this Catalyst right here. It's about pure energy and pure results. And what sets them apart? Packed with premium nootropics blended to boost focus, clarity, and mental stamina. I need this. I'm in, guys. I'm in. Plus, with plant-based caffeine, vitamin B12, B6, Catalyst supports metabolism and energy production, making it more than a drink. It's your lifestyle training partner. Built for competitors on the field, Catalyst fuels strength, focus, and pure results. Buy now at drinkcatalyst.com. That is drinkcatalyst.com. Train harder, think sharper, pure results. It's Catalyst. We're back here on TexAgs Live. Typically, we're hanging out over there in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone. We're here at the studio right now. We're at the studio desk. It's time for the Knockout Performer of the Week, brought to you by TKO Equipment. Rent, sell, lease, or rent to buy TKO Equipment, which is your trusted source for used and heavy equipment. Brian, do you have anybody you want to nominate, or do you want me just to start throwing them out?
Well, we kind of talked about the
trade deadline guys,
which I thought was really interesting and really cool. I would say Jace Lavalette, but the kind of run he's been on and for the Guardians in Lake County for the captains. And I know we've used Braden Montgomery, so I don't have a great answer for you right now.
I picked a couple Aggies that are pitching. Michael Waka on Friday had 6 strong innings, allowing 1 run, 5 hits, and no walks, 7 strikeouts. It was a tough luck loss, though they lost. But I guess he had some really rough stretches in between, and but he was doing really well there. So shout out to Michael Waka.
Can I
almost traded, by the way, where they talked about it?
Can I just give a shout out then to Michael Early for the summer he put together?
Heck yeah!
We're getting ready to start a new semester, and he's got his roster finalized with kind of waiting to see what happens with this 5 for 5, and does Ethan Darden get another year of eligibility? Because I think that Ethan Darden would be another guy they would bring back, another left-handed veteran out of the bullpen. But when you look at what they had to go do in the transfer portal, what they were tasked with replacing Grahovic, Hakopian, and Sorrell and Bear offensively, and even Jake Dewar, I think that was going to be like, you're not going to replace them like for like,
right?
But they got pretty close, man. Like I don't know that this team's going to hit 120 homers this year. They might, but to go out and get Nate Savoy and Jack Bell and Lane Arroyos and Alec Blair and Tyler Minnick and Dylan Schlegel, like they went a long way to trying to at least replicate what they've done so well offensively, but where they had to go and make the biggest impact was on the pitching side. And they completely flipped and overhauled the pitching staff to the point where you're looking at it now, and getting Clayton Freshcorn back is a massive part of this, but you're looking at the pitching staff here on August 4th, way ahead of really anything officially happening, but you're looking at it and going, okay, that's clearly better. That's clearly better. And if they're healthy, if all of these guys that missed last year are coming back, are going to be a full go, then you're looking at probably a top 5 or 6 pitching staff in the entire SEC. It's a huge jump from one to another.
And then offensively, it'll look different, obviously, with all that pop leading. So how do you think they look offensively?
I still think that they're going to have some thunder, and you got to have development out of Nico Jorian and Boston Kellner, and we don't even know what the incoming freshmen are going to be. What do like veterans now and Blake Benderup and Terrence Keel bring you? But if you could sit there and you could go through and make a lineup that has no freshmen impacting it, which inevitably will happen with the quality of players that they brought in and how they navigated the draft. But you can make a lineup that you're going to go, okay, like that'll play in this league, like big time play. The key X factor for me with what they're going to do next year is the health of Tyler Minnick, the transfer from UConn.
Mm-hmm.
He's had 2 surgeries on his shoulder since the end of the season, and his numbers took a dip in 2026 after being one of the best hitters in the country in 2025. Do those surgeries get him back to his old self? Because if they do, you're looking at one of the bigger impact bats out of the transfer portal that nobody talked about. Michael Early went completely under the radar to recruit the kid. He went completely under the radar to get him on campus for his visit, and then whenever he committed. And nobody knew about it. And I talked to a scout, an American League scout and a National League scout about the kid. And they're like, if he's healthy, he is going to hit right in the middle of that order, and it would make A&M one of the premier offenses in the league.
I think it's kind of hilarious just hearing it out loud, you saying TK and Blake Benderup as veterans, because, Benderup's been here for a while, but in my head, I still think of them as the young players, and now TK's entering his third year.
And Bendy's in his fifth.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you this, if Blake Benderup had gone onto the open market in the transfer portal, I bet an SEC or a Big 12 team probably would have gone on him, because his OPS last year was over 1,100 in above 80 at bats. So you just got a lot of fall ball to do, but I'm excited about this roster. And if you were grading Michael Early's summer from roster additions and talent acquisition to also coaching acquisition,
absolutely,
you'd have to give him an A.
Yep, no doubt. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back. Charean the Dream on the other side. We'll talk a little NFL training camp. Right now, we're talking about Rollo Insurance. The studio is called the Rollo Insurance Studio. They've been our insurance provider since I moved to town, but they've also been with this show forever, right? Back when it was TexAgs Radio. When the unexpected happens, whether it's car accident, property damage, or business liability, preparation matters, and that's what they do at the Rollo Insurance Group. They have you properly covered before crisis strikes. Their independent agents provide consultation across all insurance types, giving you the confidence that details are handled correctly. They've got 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but as I mentioned, their headquarters right here on Highway 6 in College Station. Don't wait until disaster strikes to discover the gaps in your coverage. Visit RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs. RolloInsurance.com/TexAgs. 888-44-ROLLO is Rollo Insurance. We're back here on TexAgs Live here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline, joined by our dear friend Charean Williams of Pro Football Talk, the Aggie Hall of Famer. Charean, good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Let's start off with a little bit. Well, fall camp starts here tomorrow, so we're excited about that. But I know training camps have already started around the country. Devon Achane, he's got some big aspirations this year, doesn't he?
He does. He wants to win the rushing title. He finished fifth last season, a little over 1,300 yards, his first 1,000-yard rushing season. Got paid handsomely in the offseason. Hopefully Texas A&M sees some of that money. But he wants to win the rushing title, and I think it's a good goal to have. My boss texted, we put stuff on the text string, I'm getting Devon A10 wants to win the rushing title. He said, I really wish guys would focus on team goals. Well, number one, if he's having a good rushing year, that probably means that the Dolphins have probably maybe had a better year than expected. But number two, they're not very good, and they're not going to win very many games. And it's just like Miles last season having the sack title late in the year, and that's what he said. What did the sack title get the Browns? Well, at least it got them something at the end of the year that they were playing for late in the year. Like, people watched the Browns, were interested in the Browns, wanted to see what Miles was going to do. There was no other reason to watch the Browns. So I think that's what it does, if it does anything. But, yeah, he has a chance to win the rushing title. The Dolphins aren't very good. They probably aren't going to go very far. But you know what? That's going to mean more carries for him, hopefully. And their offensive line's not horrendous. They have the best center in football, one of the best centers in football. I guess you could argue that Creed Humphrey is as good or better. But one of the top two centers in football. I think he's got a chance to do it this season. It's going to be fun to watch.
Charean, a lot of Aggies in new places this year. Which one has got your the attention most? Is it Miles? Is it Mike Evans? Christian Kirk was on the move. Who do you think is the most intriguing of these former Aggies in new homes?
I think it's probably the two you mentioned. Obviously, Miles going to the Rams is exciting for the Rams. I think it makes them the best team in the NFL if they weren't already. If Matthew Stafford stays healthy, and then Aaron Donald's likely going to come back and join that. I just think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Miles and Aaron Donald. And I think Miles might have even more sacks than he did last season when he set the NFL record, just because Aaron Donald is going to take some of those double teams away. He's just playing on a really good team, a really good defense, and I think that's only going to make him better. He's not going to be the focal point, and so, well, maybe he is still going to be the focal point, but he's not going to be the only focal point on that defense. So he's going to have more opportunities, I think, for some one-on-one. So I think that's exciting. And then Mike has a chance to revive his career in San Francisco. Now, the problem for him has been staying healthy, and he hasn't been able to do that. Last year at his first surgery, just had some soft tissue injuries, and here we go again. He's out of camp with a little quad injury right now, and they say it's not serious, but again, he just has a history of these recently, so it is a concern, I think, that he has another soft tissue injury so early in training camp. Got time to heal, but he's got to make sure that thing completely heals at his age. He is showing signs of his age just because of the injuries, but with that offense, with that quarterback, if he stays healthy, we keep saying if he stays healthy, but if he stays healthy, I just think it's going to be another 1,000-yard season. Last year he didn't get there because of the injuries. I think he's back there this season if he stays healthy.
Charean, compare the expectations in Dallas to the expectations in Houston this year, because just in taking some social media stuff over the last couple of days since training camp has started, makes me believe that there is a quiet confidence in Houston that they can get over the hump, not necessarily win the Super Bowl, but the defense is going to be good enough to get them to the big stage. Is there that same amount of optimism in Dallas?
Well, I think the difference is Houston quietly goes about its business, and, it's not the Cowboys, it's not America's team. The spotlight's not always on them, and that's sometimes a good thing. They're going to be very good. That defense is going to be perhaps historically good. It's going to be better than last year, and I thought last year was just dominant. I mean, teams just couldn't score against them. It was impossible. So they're going to keep the Texans in every single game, and it's going to come down to how C.J. Stroud and that offense plays. They do have a better running game this season with David Montgomery, and that's going to be key, I think. They'll be better in the red zone. They were horrendous in the red zone last season. They'll be better at that. But the Cowboys, to me, are talking too much noise. Olin asked me, a week or two ago about the Cowboys talking all the Super Bowl hype and Dak wearing his Super Bowl T-shirt, showing up to training camp and that. And I was fine with that. And now we're the greatest offense there is, and talking a lot of other noise. Just get to work. Stealing a line from Jason Garrett, it is a process, and it is a day-to-day thing, and you have to go work and and be good at it. You can't just talk the talk. And to back that up, you need to just get your mind focused on what the task is, and the task is getting better today. It's not about winning the Super Bowl in February right now. You can't do that today. You can't win a Super Bowl today. You can lose a Super Bowl today. You can lose a Super Bowl tomorrow. It's how your preparation is, getting ready for the season and being ready when that first game comes, and then going game to game. So I just think they're talking a little too much, pushing their chest out and flexing their muscles for a team that hasn't been to the NFC Championship game, much less the Super Bowl, since 1995, which is the longest drought in the NFC. Having said all that, I think both of them have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They're that good. Cowboys that good on offense, and Texas that good on defense.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, I saw that Mark Cuban is interested in a minority stake in the Cowboys, and that Jerry Jones might be even interested in it.
Yeah, it's become a way that teams can get more money as if they don't have enough. And a lot of teams have sold minority stakes in their teams, and Jerry is considering that with, I think, Mark Cuban. He mentioned Mark Cuban's name. Cuban would be interested in that, I think. Does Cuban have enough money to do that? We'll see. It's going to be very, very expensive. He was talking about his equity firm. I don't think they would do that. I don't think the NFL would do that. It would have to be Mark Cuban himself doing that. So does he have enough money himself? I think he probably does, but it's going to be a lot. I mean, the Cowboys are worth more than any other franchise in the world, sports-wise. So it's going to be in the billions for sure. But it is a way for Jerry to make more money. We know how much he loves money.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Live. Charean, I wanted to get into Dan Campbell for a minute because I know your colleague Michael David Smith wrote a really cool article. Dan Campbell set a standard. If you don't meet it, you're not a Detroit Lion. And I want you to talk a little bit about that. But also, I feel like even though they do it differently, that's how Coach Elko's running Texas A&M.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think you do have to have the culture. Now, that doesn't mean that all your guys walk the line all the time. You do have to have some bad. I mean, look at what the Cowboys did under Jimmy Johnson. John Roper falls asleep in a team meeting, and Jimmy immediately cuts him. Do you think he would have done that if Michael Irvin had fallen asleep in a team meeting? Absolutely not. He let him get away with all sorts of things. We know about the White House and the drugs and the prostitutes and everything else that they had going there. So it's not necessarily having all guys that walk the straight line all the time, but it is about a culture and an environment that breeds winning. And I think that it's something that Dan has done in Detroit, despite their lack of a history of winning. He's got that going, that mindset of we can beat anybody. We're going to go out and do it. Now, I don't know if they're as good as they were 2 years ago. I think they've lost some parts, offensively and defensively, that I don't know that they're quite as good as what they were 2 years ago when they had the best record in the NFC. But that culture of we can go out and beat anybody is going to serve them well if they're not quite as talented. Just working together and having that mindset of, we can get this done together if we do it as a team. And I think you're right. I think that is what A&M is building under Mike Elko. I think they do have that. And I do think, character is important. Again, you don't have to have all, you can have some bad guys on your team as long as the culture is good and the good guys keep them in order and it's not distractions off the field. Like, Terrell Owens, to me, was a distraction in the locker room for the Cowboys when he was there, and I was in that locker room. I just think he was a distraction. So there are guys like that, and he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's not a bad guy off the field, but inside that culture, inside that locker room, that's what's important. Are you with me? Are you against me? Type mentality. And I think Elko is building that at A&M. I mean, you just see it and see that they're convinced that they can beat anybody.
Charean, in your estimation, or I would like for you to tell me which of these three is the most important for Texas A&M going into this season, in your opinion. Marcel Reed's development, the offensive line, or the defense?
I think I'd have to go the offensive line. I mean, they've got to get it done. They've got to give Marcel time. They've got to open holes for the running game. And I go back to the old Bill Parcells saying of, if your offensive line and defensive line are good, you're going to have a good team. And so if the offensive line is good, I think A&M's going to have a good team. And if the offensive line's not good, I don't think the offense is going to be very good, or mediocre, or not as good as they need to be to get it done. You got to score points. It's just like what we were talking about with the Texans. Like, your defense can be all world, but you still have to score points at some point. And especially against good teams. And A&M saw that late this season. Texans saw it in the playoffs. You got to be better on offense, and you got to be better than what C.J. Stroud and Marcel Reed were at the end of last season if you want to go win a championship.
Charean, last thing for you. Jadeveon Clowney coming back to the Texans. Does he have any game left? I think he's been injured the last couple of years. I know he played a little bit for the Cowboys, but does he have anything left?
Yeah, he was their best pass rusher last year, had 8.5 sacks. He's still looking for his first double-digit sack season, but 8.5 sacks, he's always been better against the run than the pass. I just think he adds to that defense. I mean, that's why I think they can be historically good this season, is all the depth that they have and the pass rotation, and he's going to be in on rundowns. I just think they're going to be really fun to watch on defense. They're going to generate a lot of turnovers. Frustration for the offense. I just think it's going to be great to watch. And, back to A&M, I just think that secondary at A&M is going to be fun to watch. You can generate a pass rush to go along with that. I think that secondary is so good. It's maybe the best secondary A&M's ever had, which is saying a lot when you consider the Aaron Glenns and Ray Mickens and all those guys who played for that Kevin Smith, who played for that defense way back in the day of the wrecking crew. But if they can generate some pass rush, I think that secondary is going to be legendary.
Charean, great stuff as always. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that's the great Charean Williams on the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. We'll hit a break, come back with a final segment here on the Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Let's talk heritage films. Farming and ranching families think differently. They think about yesterday, they think about tomorrow, because they think in these cycles. And if you have a ranch and you want to make sure that you pass on all the wisdom from your land to the next generation, reach out to Chance McClain and his team. They do these 2-hour documentaries for farming and ranching families. They do it for everybody, really. Like, that's not the only thing that they do. But this is going to be the wisdom that your grandkids and their grandkids are going to need. Let them capture it in a 2-hour documentary form that will be empowering for your entire family. You got a grandfather you want to tell his story, or your grandmother, your wife, whoever it may be. Let Chance and his team take care of you at Heritage Films. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com. Call them up, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It is Heritage Films. Hey guys, David Nuno here to talk about our new partners with EventPipe. They are a leader in hotel booking technology, and now they're giving you a chance to support Aggie student athletes every time that you travel. Thanks to their partnership with United and EventPipe, whether you're heading into a game, a business trip, or family vacation, every room that you book comes with cash back in the pockets of Aggie athletes. That's a wonderful deal. And with EventPipe, you'll get discounted hotel rates up to 20% lower than the major travel sites, while enjoying a fast, easy booking process. They've even created Presto, EventPipe's quick launch booking solution. It lets organizations build branded hotel sites powered by live hotel inventory, making it simple to book the perfect stay. So next time you want to book a trip, do it the smart way with EventPipe and support Texas Aggies NIL through United. Visit their website, tau.eventpipe.com. Final segment of the Go Hour. As a reminder, the final segment of the program is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggie Land since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com, and your favorites are on their
Dude,
way.
did you see the eye contact there, Nick?
What?
This guy doesn't need to look at his prep. You read that, you looked right into the camera the entire time and got it spot on.
It's muscle memory. I've done it 2,632 times.
I don't know how you read any of the stuff on your rundown with it all being different colors.
Oh.
It makes different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I'm not hating, and I know you're sensitive. I'm not hating.
I don't. You can hate.
No,
it's
no.
all right. You're not hosting the show. It
Right.
doesn't- it doesn't work.
So David will send me the rundowns whenever I'm guest hosting. And the color coordination, how your brain sees that and organizes it, I will never understand. He's got like half of a read is in yellow, the other half is in green. The next thing is in blue with pink writing.
Well, if let's color code for the family. I think Nick is more like you, but he has adopted my style. Correct?
Nick
I've
should
just
be
gotten
like me,
used
more
to
like me.
reading it, but I delete a lot of stuff off the rundowns that you make for me.
Light blue is video. Okay? So if somebody in the back needs to know what they need to cut, boom, light blue. Yellow is a live spot. Green is not a live spot.
Okay.
Green is a spot, segment spot.
This all makes sense in your brain.
Yeah. Any other colors that we?
Just start scrolling. You got the rundown open.
Yeah. At the end of the hour, I like to have it in red. Yeah. Boom. End of the hour. I think organization is the key to life.
Oh, that's the key to life.
What's the name of the lady who organizes Mary Carmona? What's her name?
You know what this goes into? This all is like into that life optimization thing that you and some
I'm an
other,
optimizer.
Yeah, there's definitely a community of y'all.
Optinunia. Sorry, that's a dad joke. I did it again.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but that's what I do. I like to optimize. I actually have a checklist to make sure that I do certain things in a day. Like, all right, I got to have my. Never mind.
There's rumors going around that
They're probably true.
The 1775 barbecue spot, like the only reason how y'all came to terms on a partnership is because they agreed to keep a scale out there for you only.
Oh, I've traveled
measure
with my
your
scale.
food.
Actually, if they sold a credit card scale, because I think they do, but I think it's super expensive that I could take with me to restaurants, I would do it.
A credit card scale?
Yeah, it fits into your.
You just put it on the table,
and then you're like, all right, here's your chicken. Beep. 6 ounces, great, let's go. The only thing it can't account for, Bronny, is the butter that they cook with. That's
Have you heard the Roger Clemens butter story?
No. Tell
You
me
need
more.
to. You just go. It's kind of. I can give you the highlighted version. He wins a Cy Young. He's pitching for Boston.
Yeah.
The award ceremony is with a bunch of legends in New York City. He can tell some of the waiters aren't big fans of his because he's been pitching for Boston.
Yeah.
It's his first year. He doesn't know anything. He just kind of wears it. He said, but I got screwed on my food. And I wanted some more butter for my baked potato, and they let it go cold, all this kind of stuff. He goes, the next year I win the Cy Young again. I go back to New York City for the award ceremony, and now I feel like I'm at home. And I got a little bit more cachet to my name, and I'm more confident. And he asked the waiter, same waiter that was there the year before that was eyeballing him. He was like, hey, man, I'd like some butter from baked potato. And the waiter goes around and walks by him again and just doesn't bring him any butter. And he goes, after about the third time, I stopped and said, hey, man, I'm trying to get some butter. My stuff's getting cold here. He goes, do you know who I am? And he said, the waiter goes, yeah, I know who you are, but you must not know who I am. And Roger Clemens goes, I don't know who you are. He goes, I'm in charge of the effing butter. And then turned around and walked off.
I know it's not popular on TexAgs. I love Roger Clemens. I have a working relationship with him. He was always great to me, so I appreciate him. He was very nice and funny.
Do you have any other relationships with the members of University of Texas baseball program, current, past, future?
Not that I can recall.
Okay.
Not at all. No.
Nolan Cain's back.
That's a good one. That was a great one to get back. I was on my way to Florida when that happened. Thank you, Bronny.
Yeah.
When we come back, Connor O'Gara talking a little SEC next on TexAgs Live. We're back. TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Buppy's Catering and Bartending Hotline. Joined by TexAgs contributor Connor O'Gara here on the program. What up, Real G?
Real G.
Yeah.
That one's new. We're trying that one out.
We're
seeing
trying it out,
if
yeah.
that works.
Well, Bronny earlier said that I do dad jokes, so I was just trying to think of what, how to incorporate your podcast with your last name, with TexAgs contributor, and I just said the Real G.
Real OG. Now that place, that's perfectly fine. I like bro.
Okay.
You started last time by calling me bro.
Yeah, bro.
I'm good with that. Real G is new. And look, here's an honest confession. I was probably like 12 years old when I found out like what OG meant. Like, oh, it's original gangster. And I very quickly realized, like, I'm not cool enough for this, but my last name just lends itself to it. And I got to lean into this as much as possible. So I would just try and tell people all the time, like, yeah, my nickname is OG. And a lot of people ran with that, and it was great. And then I think a lot of people just kind of gave me a look, and they're like, man, I don't really know that you're fitting that build. But you know what? I'm happy to be called whatever you got on the table for me, Nuno.
Well, Connor, I just Googled because I thought I was right. Just wanted to make sure what a real G is. And according to our good friend Google AI, a real G, right, is a person who's authentic, fiercely loyal, and genuinely cool. The letter G stands for gangsta. And it comes from original gangsta. So I gave you even better. Like I went like fiercely. You're like a dog. DAWG and DOG. Sorry.
Your words and mine. Dad jokes they're flying today, man. The fact that you had to look up real G is probably the sign that I am not a real G. But you know what? I'll take it wherever I can get it.
All right, let's get into your crystal ball because I always enjoyed reading these when you've done them in the past. You have A&M finishing 7th in the SEC, 9-3, which before the season starts, nobody wants to hear, right? Well, at least our audience doesn't want to hear that. But I think that's a very realistic point of view based on the unknowns that are still out there for Texas A&M.
I have them finishing 6-3 in SEC play, which when we do the predicted order finish in the media and that comes out after SEC media days, you don't get like a conference record that's associated with each one, but A&M was picked to finish 4th in the conference by the media. And so technically I'm like far apart by saying I think they're going to finish 3 spots worse, even though if you gave media some truth serum, it'd probably be like, oh yeah, like 6-3 or 7-2 in conference play. So I'm not like necessarily lower on A&M than the consensus, despite what that number might say. But, I do question the finish still. I wonder what it's going to look like finishing the schedule with the likes of Oklahoma and Texas. I think it's the elephants in the room. I think here's the place that we need to mentally get to. And I think it's a very realistic place. A&M in mid-November is very much in playoff consideration, feeling like they're setting themselves up to be able to get back to the college football playoff. And the way that these 2 seasons have finished under Mike Elko, and knowing that the elephant in the room is those looming games against teams that are going to be battle tested by that point in the season. And I question whether or not we're going to be able to see A&M play a full 60-minute game against those 2 teams and win. Now, if you win that Oklahoma game, all of a sudden we're talking about having a playoff berth already probably locked in by that point in the season, going into the Texas game, even though the Texas game would sell itself, of course, and all the different things that are associated with that, narratives and whatnot. But I do think that's going to be the conversation surrounding this A&M team, is that they can rack up these wins in the first part of that schedule, but everybody's going to be going, well, we know this is all going to come down to how that schedule finishes out in the regular season.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I am still, to me, it's going to boil down to, can A&M run the ball this year? If A&M can run the ball, I think Marcel Reed's a significantly better quarterback. And when I say run the ball, I don't mean Marcel running the ball. I'm meaning just the entire running game. What does Ruben Owens look like, Jamarian Morrow, and the rest of the crew? And again, that goes back to the offensive line. There's several layers to what I'm saying. But if they're able to run the ball, I'm a big believer. If they ran the ball better against Texas, that game feels different.
I don't think you're wrong. I think if you could close your eyes and see a world in which A&M has offensive line continuity going into the late part of the season, you'd feel great. If you knew that Ruben Owens was going to be perfectly healthy and looking every bit like the former 5-star guy he came in as, you'd be like, that bodes pretty well. If you see the turnover numbers come down from Marcel Reed, if you see a first-time play caller in Holman Wiggins looking the part, you'd say, all right, sign me up. Even if Mike Elko's defense doesn't necessarily have that bona fide star that they had last year in Cassius Howell, you'd still feel like he's going to do enough to be able to give you enough of a floor on that side of the ball to make all those other things work. And that's the identity of a playoff contender. The problem is, it's tough for me to close my eyes and see all of those things coming to fruition. Could some of them? Absolutely. But a lot of unknowns. And there are a lot of unknowns in this conference this year, man. I picked Texas to win the SEC, and Lord knows that won't come back to bite me at all. I might be the first person to ever put on TexAgs that I think Texas is going to win the conference. Surely Texas won't fall on its face. But Texas, I have questions about on the defensive side of the ball. They have 3 guys, I think, that are from last year's defense that had at least 3 or 4 starts. Like, they are really portal reliant with a guy in Will Muschamp who is taking over Pete Kwiatkowski in what's going to be a role that he hasn't been in a while. And I do wonder what that looks like. So everybody's got certain questions. A&M's maybe a little bit more pronounced than others, but I don't necessarily think there's going to be a very big gap, maybe even 1 through 7 in the SEC.
So really what you're saying, Connor, and you basically said it in a different way, is that they'll probably be 7-1 heading into the last 2 games of the year, and that'll determine playoff team or not, as it has the last couple years.
Right? But wouldn't be surprising. Now, I'll say this. If the playoff is not in consideration in mid-November, that'd be a really tough look, and that would be a sign that those things that we just talked about, closing our eyes and seeing them come to fruition, then probably only 1 or 2 of those came to fruition. And it would be a setback for Mike Elko. But, man, you see the things that are being said about him in the offseason, and everybody just feels like A&M has that adult in the room. Now, whether or not you can win those games that might come down to a possession or 2, that remains to be seen. And I think Mike Elko has all the motivation in the world to be able to prove that. He talked about, well, how do you motivate your guys? My empty trophy case. That's what's still motivating this team, and now they're going to be held to that standard this year. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy year in the SEC. It is going to be one of those years in which week to week we go, who's going to Atlanta? Mm-hmm. Do we know? Do we know who's going to be able to get there? Maybe a team that is trying to get there for the very first time, like A&M, like Ole Miss, can do just that.
Connor, I think some of these things are very fair, but I don't want to push back on you. I push back on people overall that say, well, A&M doesn't win these big games. Well, I'm sorry. I still think Notre Dame was a big win. And LSU I bring up because in retrospect, it wasn't as big of a win, but I've always been a prisoner of the moment when I talk about games. And at that time, it was a huge game. I know what happened afterwards. And maybe that's just coping by me, but at the time, LSU was not who they were the rest of the way.
LSU losing that game the way that they did, it changed the course of SEC history. It absolutely did. Because I think if Brian Kelly loses a close down-to-the-wire game in which all of a sudden Garrett Nussmeier looks like he's healthy and this offense is actually doing things, I don't think Brian Kelly gets fired that night. Maybe he still gets fired at season's end, but we don't have the fiasco that we had with Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss playing out the way that it did, where he was courted so early on in the process. And so, the ripple effect of that is, so significant. And the fact that A&M was the team that put the nail in the coffin, that was a huge part of the SEC story in 2025. And so that game did mean a lot. And still going into that place and winning at night the way that they did, even in down years for LSU, that is still a worthy accomplishment. I wonder what that game is going to look like this year, because I think that is an opportunity for Lane Kiffin to show he is different than his predecessor. Marcel Reed says, look, I don't lose to LSU. I don't blame him for saying that. If I played the way that Marcel Reed did against LSU, I'd sure as heck be confident too. But I do think that that's an opportunity for LSU to be able to say, look, it's a new era in this program. And so that could be one of those games where it's just like, hey, it's 28-24 and it's coming down to that last possession. I think there are going to be so many of those coin flip type games this year. And some of those will probably go A&M's way, and then some of them won't. And maybe this year, this is the time in which LSU is more competent and they can actually look like a team that fields an SEC type defense in the second half against A&M.
Connor, you picked Antosaka as the SEC Defensive Newcomer of the Year. Where does that bold prediction come from? I mean, I don't disagree with you, by the way. I love Antosaka. I think he's going to be great, and with Coach Elko working with him. But just kind of give me your thoughts on that.
I've learned to just blindly trust when Mike Elko evaluates a defensive lineman in the portal. And, worked with Cassius Howell. I think it worked with Nick Scorton. I think you could point to examples where you've already seen that play out. I mean, TJ Searcy is a guy that's going to be a leader of that unit, and Lord knows he's been certainly a very valuable piece of that defensive line if you've watched the way that this team has played. But I think that Saka's the one that's going to be able to come in there and establish that pass rushing threat, which you need to have in this day and age. Like you talk to coaches and they'll tell you, go into the portal, get yourself a guy that can rush off the edge. And he's done that well so far in the Big Ten. And this is a very experienced player who's coming in with a pedigree that maybe some people are sleeping on nationally because they haven't necessarily had a reason to tune in to Northwestern games when they're on 11 o'clock Central or something like that. They're playing right next to Lake Michigan. But this is someone who I think is going to explode in that Mike Elko defense. I think he's going to be one of those players that within the first few weeks of the season, he's a household name. And maybe it's not as much of he's now a household name in the way that Cassius Howell was after the back-to-back sacks that he had, but he's going to make his presence felt very much. And I think if we're talking about newcomers in the SEC, and that's what I picked him to be, the SEC Defensive Newcomer of the Year, I think you have to look at one of those game-wrecking edge rushers, these guys who I think can take a lot of these offensive lines by surprise with the things that they can come into this conference and do immediately. So, yeah, it's somewhat blind faith in Mike Elko, but I think to this point he's earned it.
I know you're high on Ole Miss. Are you high on LSU? And the reason I'm asking that is that we're going to get that matchup early. Do you see a world where they play again?
It's volatile. They could, but I think LSU is going to be all over the place. And they're another one of these teams. I have it 9-3. I have LSU missing the college football playoff as a result of that game September 19th at Ole Miss. I think LSU loses that game, and I think they're one of these teams that week to week is kind of tough to figure out. And with so many new pieces, I just don't necessarily know that you can set it and forget it with them and know what their floor is, because that's kind of been Sam Leavitt as a player. I mean, even if he's healthy, like go back to that Mississippi State game last year where the first half of that game, really the first like 3/4 of that game, it's like, this dude was in a college football playoff last year. What's going on? So I don't think he's a finished guy. And I don't think having the offseason that he did with the Liz Frank injury, wherein he missed spring ball with his new team, is necessarily going to bode well. So maybe there are some moments where he's still kind of playing some of that YOLO ball, and LSU's offense is just too turnover prone. It puts too much pressure on that defense. So I think they're going to be one of those teams that week to week you're going to want to tune into, because it's Lane Kiffin and Baton Rouge, of course, for all the obvious reasons. But they're also just kind of a bit of a mixed bag, and you just don't know what you're going to get. Even that LSU defense at times under Blake Baker, I mean, against A&M especially, have had moments in which they've been all over the place. So I can't sit here and tell you with full confidence that they're like a 10-2 team. I think they're on the outside looking in at the college football playoff, and that will be very, very much dissected among college football fans that are waiting on Lane Kiffin to fail.
Where are you on Georgia and why?
Again, I'm dumb for saying this. I'm really, really dumb. I need to tell the people this. I am dumb for saying that the team that has been to the SEC championship 8 of the last 9 years is not going to get to Atlanta this year. And I am fully aware that I'm probably just doing the thing in the preseason where I'm like, well, look, that's the most obvious pick. The media picked Georgia to win the conference, understandably so. And I'm probably just trying to be a little bit interesting by saying that they're not going to win the SEC this year. But I have them at 10-2 and 7-2 in conference play, losing that late season game to Ole Miss, which ultimately decides a spot in Atlanta. And if you ask Georgia fans, and maybe even Kirby Smart if you give them some truth serum, do they really care about getting to the SEC championship anymore? I don't think that first round bye gives them a whole lot of confidence, because we've seen what it's been like the last 2 years where they get the first round bye, they lose in the Sugar Bowl, and they're like, hey, maybe it would have been nice to have that home playoff game and build up some momentum and kind of, get our footing a little bit here and not have as much of a layoff. So I think Georgia this year actually misses out on the SEC championship and then gets to the national championship and plays a game against Oregon, Dan Lanning, master versus disciple. a different story than 2022. Dan Lanning's debut, I was there in Atlanta. Oregon kicked off season against Georgia, did not belong on the same field as Georgia, but it's a different era right now for Oregon football. But I think Georgia is able to make it that far, and then maybe some offensive limitations in that national championship game that hold them back. And this is ultimately a year in which Georgia kind of gets over the playoff hump and ends that mini drought, but they're not able to be the last team standing.
You have Alabama winning 10 games. If Alabama wins 10 games, they're a playoff team. What does that do for Kalen DeBoer? I'm not talking about what they do in the playoffs. I think that obviously it's going to come down to that. But just if he, with a brand new quarterback, gets this team to double digits, does it kind of change the way people look at him, at least in Tuscaloosa?
It puts preseason national championship contender status back on Alabama going into 2027. That's kind of the way that they've built this roster. The Greg Byrne decision to extend Kalen DeBoer reflects that. And I thought that the way that they spent in the portal with some of their offensive line evaluation, I thought that looked like a team that was ramping up for sort of a 2-year proof of concept. And, there are still going to be a ton of narratives about Alabama, no matter what this year. And I have them going 10-2. Because I think the schedule is really favorable. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Like A&M and Oklahoma have better teams on paper than Alabama. But I do think that Alabama gets a very beneficial schedule for an inexperienced team with the way that it starts. And then that 4-game gauntlet, if you go 2-2, like you're still set up to be a playoff team at 10-2 and kind of able to work through some of those ebbs and flows. I think Keelan Russell's the real deal. In my predictions here, I have him as the SEC Freshman of the Year. He's a redshirt freshman. But I do think that he's going to be what that staff hopes he could be, which is the righty Michael Penix. If he is that guy, and if this Alabama team retains a ton of production from a team that makes the college football playoff this year, going into 2027, the conversation surrounding Kalen DeBoer will be, well, now is when he should win that national championship. I asked him at SEC Media Days, do you think your time at Alabama will be defined by whether you win a national championship? And his answer, I think, left a lot to be desired. And I think a lot of people were hoping that he would just come out and say, yeah, that's the expectation. It's Alabama. I know what I signed up for. And instead he's like, well, I wouldn't doubt that. And, talked about like, that's not necessarily my goal. And he gave a very Saban-like answer. The problem is that he is not in Saban territory right now with that Alabama fan base. And there are so many different conversations about him. So I'm all over the place probably with Alabama, even though I do think I'm higher than consensus. But more questions than answers with this team going into 2026.
Last thing for you, Connor, not SEC related, but Indiana related. What kind of year are you expecting from Indiana after winning a national championship? Obviously, Hoover's coming in to be the quarterback. Do they maintain this playoff level program this year?
I think they do. I think they're an 11-1 team. I do. I think that, the win total is 10.5 wins, which is nuts. Like, it's kind of crazy to consider what Indiana did last year and know that their win total with really a lot of new pieces is still that high. But, they retained both coordinators. It's really rare. Like, Brian Haynes came back after winning the Broyles Award. We haven't seen a coach do that in this sport since Brent Venables came back from that 2018 Clemson team in terms of like national championship winning coordinators. It's just not the way that typically works out. So the foundation is still very much in place. I think their front seven should still be one of the better groups in all of college football. Offensive line, like Carter Smith is a preseason All-American at left tackle. And Josh Hoover, you're stepping into a situation where the first two quarterbacks under Cignetti have both been top 10 in the Heisman voting. So it's hard not to be bullish on Indiana, knowing that you have that marquee home game against Ohio State, and then you have to turn around and go travel up to Ann Arbor. Like, that stretch will define whether or not Indiana makes the college football playoff. But like, they're 27-2 under Curt Cignetti, with the 2 losses coming to teams that played at a national championship. It's hard to get around that. And so for me, with the mindset that he's had all offseason, very Saban-esque, and it doesn't necessarily guarantee Saban levels of success, but if you were ever trying to have a coach be wired the right way coming off a 16-0 season, it's what Curt Cignetti's had. And I don't really question the complacency factor or anything like that. So yeah, I think that they're going to win a whole bunch of games, make the college football playoff. I don't think they're going to win a national championship. I think it's going to be tougher to make a deep run in the playoff this year with the roster that they have, but they're still very much going to be part of the national championship conversation.
Connor, great stuff as always, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
See you, man. Connor O'Gara on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back. Open segment followed by Billy for an hour. Right now, if you're looking for real peace of mind, it starts with the right team, and it starts with making sure you manage your money the right way. Check out Aggie-owned Paragon Financial Advisors. They're an independent fiduciary serving clients all across Texas. No sales pitches, no commissions, just honest financial planning and investment management. And what sets them apart is the over 9 CFPs, the CFA, and the CPA all on staff. They take their credentials seriously, and they work tirelessly to help you build a future that you can feel good about. Go to paragon-adv.com or give them a call, 979-693-3907 to schedule your free consultation today. It is Paragon Financial Advisors, integrity, expertise, and trust. Paragon Financial Advisors. Oh, it's on. So Was it me or was it you, Cade? Let's be honest. Let's have a conversation.
Well, I saw that your mic was on. I
started talking and I heard nothing.
Interesting.
So I was like, oh, Cade, I thought it was me. This is really professional radio. Cade, you took over the show and it started off brilliantly. Thank you very much for
you're
pushing
welcome.
Nick Savage out.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein wants to tell us what's poppin' on TexAgs today.
So on TexAgs today, we got a lot of content from yesterday and today. Starting with some stuff from yesterday, we have a 5 and 5 with Billy. We have 5 thoughts from Luke Evangelist from the Bahamas, sponsored by the Bayless Law Firm. And as for today, we have another 5 and 5 from Billy. We have a volleyball press conference with Coach Jamie Morrison. We have a football press conference with Mike O'Reilly, Mark Naboo, and Dalton Brooks. And as for later on today, we have Texas Aggies United with Ashton Bethel Roman and Damian Sanford.
All right, good stuff there. And by the way, we will have Luke Evangelist live probably from a beach or something in the Bahamas as he'll join us to talk about the game yesterday where they were running away with it against the University of Victoria. I still don't have any resolution. Like, where are they from? Where is it? Is it Australia?
I think it's Melbourne, Australia.
It is. Okay. It's not down in South Texas. Not that Victoria.
No, not that Victoria.
Yeah, actually, I knew that. But I wasn't sure if it was the Melbourne one. But okay, we'll have Luke to kind of break down that game. But apparently they were up a lot. Then Victoria made a little run, and then A&M's like, no, sir. They were bad from the free throw line. But that's something that, and I think they didn't like their defense. So we'll talk about that. When Billy joins us here in a little bit, obviously we got some fall camp stuff to get into. Like, what are some things that he's looking at? What are some of the areas that he's going to be really keying in on? We'll be there as a team tomorrow for the first day of fall practice. It's already here. It's the longest off season in the history of sports. But when it comes in a flurry. And is September 4th the first game?
September 5th.
September 5th. So we are just over a month away from the very first game of the season against Missouri State. One of the things I do want to get into, and maybe Billy and I can get into this, what does a championship roster in the SEC look like in today's era of college football? Because we talk so much about the playoffs, right? And like that's where we want to see A&M play in. And we do. Like all of us want to see that. I don't think I'm in the minority. I would love to be in Kirby Smart's shoes to be like, you know what? It's okay. We don't have to play in Atlanta. It's fine. Like, we don't need the extra game. I want it for our fans. I want it for me. I want A&M to play in an SEC championship game. So, like, do you have to have elite quarterback play to make an SEC championship game? Make the playoffs. You can use the same question. And I don't know if elite quarterback play is the answer to that, but Ohio State, do they have elite quarterback play the last couple of years in the Big Ten?
I'll even say Georgia.
Georgia, have they had
Gunnar
elite?
Stockton was not elite last year. He was very serviceable, though.
Has Oregon had elite quarterback play? Has Texas had elite quarterback play?
I'll say Oregon has with Dante Moore
Moore's pretty legit.
Dante Moore might be the first pick in the draft next year.
I'm trying to think of other teams. Yes, Ole Miss, who didn't make the SEC championship game, did they have elite quarterback play last year? They did. All right, they had elite quarterback play. But you look at Alabama. Would you say they had elite quarterback play?
This past season?
Yeah.
I'd say above average. Or I'd say good to great with Ty Simpson.
So what you need is really good quarterback play. We'll take elite, of course. Everybody will take elite. Fernando Mendoza was elite. You'll take elite. Marcel, be elite. But you don't need elite. You do have to have an offensive line that is deep. An offensive line that protects and that is deep. So you have to have that. I think retention, which Mike Elko is great at, is a huge part. I think I hear Billy, by the way, so maybe we'll hit a break here in a second. Do I hear Billy, Cade? No? Oh, I hear somebody being really loud. Bronny?
Yeah.
Figure. So retention, obviously, a big part of what an SEC championship game needs to look like. Now, that being said, you look at some of the youngest teams in all of college football, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas A&M. They're all like in the 19.5 range. You have to win in the trenches, but do you have to be built that way? That's something to ask. You need NFL players across the board, but especially in the secondary. Teams that make it to SEC championship games have elite secondaries and NFL talent on that secondary. What is something we keep not only hearing, but knowing? A&M has a pretty deep, darn good secondary. All right, so we have that. What about spending your money on one superstar? A&M doesn't do that. They spread it out in a great way. So I'm giving you things to think about as potentially of what A&M has to do from a checks and balances standpoint. You want to have a veteran quarterback for sure. A&M's got that. You want elite returning skill talent. I think A&M has that for sure. I think you want not only do you want cohesion on the offensive line, that's a TBD, but you have a returning starting center at the offensive line, which hopefully brings that chemistry. It just speeds up that chemistry because he's the one who's touching the ball on every play. He's the one making the calls. He's the one who sets the tone. As I already mentioned, you want experienced secondary, and you want to make sure you hit in the portal. A&M has done all those things. The question remains if it all, you hit the jackpot on all of them, and obviously we'll have to figure that out as time goes. But, if you can replace production from last year, which I think A&M's done, and you get really good to elite quarterback play, which I think that's what Marcel did for 95% of last season, then I think, you'll be in the mix at the end of the season. And at the end of the season, you got to go beat Oklahoma. You got to go beat Texas. That's what it comes down to, kind of like what Connor was talking about. Right now, we're talking about Guarantee Bank and Trust. They've been around since 1913. They have over a century of experience helping Texans as one of the most respected community banks, and they are so respected. And what does a community bank mean to you? It means that these guys work here in the market, right? They know you. It's sometimes when you go to these big branch banks, like, you got this triage person that doesn't know anything about you. Let me type in your number. It takes a while, right? You want somebody who already knows when you walk in why you're in there. Like, oh, yeah, you want to check on the loan. You want to check on this, on that. And that's what Guarantee Bank and Trust does. They are just super local, and they are a community bank to their core. 33 locations in Texas, from East Texas to DFW to Houston to Central Texas. But not their headquarters, but their mission right here in College Station is 3 great locations. They grow strong for your community. Every decision is shaped by helping this community grow stronger. Again, it is Guarantee Bank and Trust. Check out the website, gnty.com. It is Guarantee Bank and Trust, a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Everybody, David Nuno here of TexAgs here with part of the team from Frog Slayer. We've got Tim Scott, the head of product strategy and design, and Tori Maddox, the senior marketing manager. All right, Tim, who is Frog Slayer? What do you all do?
So Frog Slayer is a custom software and AI and automation shop. We've been helping folks in the Bryan and College Station area for years with their custom software. But more and more recently, we've been getting questions from businesses asking about how AI can help them.
And Tori, I bet there's a lot of businesses with questions about that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's why we're actually putting together this event series called Table Stakes. It's a peer-to-peer roundtable discussion that allows business owners to come together and have open and honest conversations about AI, automation, and how it's impacting their businesses.
Tim, what do these events look like?
So imagine you and 8 other owners gathered around a table talking about what ate your week, what didn't go well, what went great, trying to figure out how AI fits into it, maybe seeing some real examples of some tools, and then afterwards grabbing a few drinks.
I like the way that sounds. All right, Tori, how does someone sign up?
Yeah, you can sign up or request a seat by going to frogslayer.com/roundtables. There you'll see a list of upcoming events, and you can request to join us.
Tim and Tori, thank you very much. Go check out Frog Slayer, guys.
Welcome back to TexAgs Live. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, waiting on Billy Liucci to join the program. We'll chit-chat with Billy here in about, I don't know, whenever. We'll get to him when we get to him. Anyway, let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein found out some predictions from our friend, who was it?
JD Piquel, friend of the program.
Yep.
So JD put out his college football playoffs rankings and predictions for the end of the season. I just want to run these games and the eventual champion by you and see what you think.
Okay, take it in parts.
So in the first round, he has number 5 Texas Tech defeating number 12 UTSA.
Hold on, say that again?
He has Texas Tech as the 5 seed, defeating number 12 UTSA.
I haven't done enough research on what UTSA has done.
As most.
And so, sure. Okay.
And then for the rest of the first round, he has number 6 Oklahoma defeating number 11 LSU.
Number 6 Oklahoma in an SEC showdown versus number 11 LSU.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he's really high on Oklahoma in that case.
Following that, we have number 7 Notre Dame defeating number 10 Indiana, a rematch of the playoffs 2 years ago.
The championship? Oh, not the champion. Yeah, the second round of the playoffs 2 years ago. Okay.
And then number 9 Texas defeating number 8 USC in the last matchup of the first round.
Number 9 Texas defeating USC. That means I would assume he has Texas losing to Oklahoma if he's got Oklahoma higher than them from 6 to 9. Okay.
And so then in the quarterfinals, he has Georgia, number 1 seed, defeating number 9 seed Texas.
Okay.
Oregon, number 2, defeating number 7 Notre Dame.
Oregon, number 2, being, okay.
And then Oklahoma, number 6, defeating number 3 Ohio State.
Man, he is high on Oklahoma. Okay.
Following that, we have number...
So hold on, I've noticed you haven't mentioned Texas A&M yet.
I have not. He does not have A&M making the 12-team playoff this year.
Okay.
The last matchup of the quarterfinals he has is Miami as the 4 seed, beating Tech as the 5 seed.
I can absolutely see that being the case, yes. Okay.
And then when we go to the semis, he has Georgia beating Miami.
Georgia beating him? Okay, so he's very high on Georgia.
And Oregon beating Oklahoma.
Okay.
To where it's a Georgia versus Oregon national championship.
And Oregon wins it all.
And he has Oregon beating Georgia in the
That
national
sounds like what I've been saying this like for 2 weeks.
That's what Connor O'Gara just said.
Yeah. Now, I think I do that, not because I know, I have an extensive history of researching Oregon football this year. I just believe when you have one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the country who would have been a top 10 pick in the NFL draft, and you have all the resources that they have and the players coming back that they have, and you have a very good coach, I think this could be the natural process for them to take that next big step, which I think is interesting when you consider Texas A&M, because, going back to Bronny's commentary earlier, that the thing that I thought Arsenal did in the soccer world that is something that we don't see enough of in college football is patience. And Oregon, not that they have no reason not to be patient with Dan Lanning. That's not the case. But I haven't heard whispers about, hey man, you better win the next big. It's been a little bit now. If they have a step back,
I was about to say
that changes the conversation.
If he doesn't make the playoffs, I won't say it's seats hot, but if he doesn't make the playoffs, does it get a little uncomfortable in Oregon?
I mean, it's uncomfortable for any big time coach. I really believe that. I think it's uncomfortable for any big-time coach that doesn't. Of course, it should be uncomfortable.
The only reason I say that is because if you look at the last 2 years that Oregon's made the playoffs under Dan Lanning, they've gotten embarrassed in their losses.
They have.
The first year, they were the number 1 overall seed, lost to the eventual national champion in Ohio State, and then this past year, they beat, who was it, James Madison?
Yeah.
And then they get bounced by Indiana.
Well, I think we're going to see more of that if the college football playoffs continues to expand. And I'm not saying that Oregon is in that conversation, but I mean, Alabama got embarrassed as well. That is happening more than you would think, especially if they go from 16 to 24, if those things are possible. Billy Liucci's in studio. Billy, how are you? I don't understand what the sigh was.
No feel, no, nothing.
No.
No brass knuckles, at least.
You have no feel.
No, it's like you're talking, keep talking. You can tell I'm still on the phone. I hadn't gotten set up yet, but here we go.
This segment started 6 minutes ago. You came in.
You want to know that story?
No.
I walk in and Richard's running down the stairs. Running.
That's dangerous.
Bronny's like, you better hurry. He's running down the stairs with a bunch of shirts. of a new sponsor that he thinks we're supposed to wear today.
Not today.
And then, exactly. Even I knew. I said, y'all are wrong. They've got Callie on the phone. Richard's running downstairs. Brauninger's yelling, holding his baby. I'm like, what in the hell's going on? And it's like then they said, all we have is Brawnies, and it's like a 3X. And I said, well, I'm not wearing that. And also, it's not for this. It's for Luchador.
Right.
And they had to call Miranda.
Shout out to Poncho.
That's right. Oh, you want to say who? Yeah.
Oh, I just did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Poncho. So I'm like, I'm not wearing a 3X. Let's get me in a normal size. And we're wearing them during the Luchador. New sponsor there, so we're going to wear those. And I'm fired up. So then I'm going, well, do I have to always wear specific ones, or can I go like shop through, buy different, like long sleeve this week?
Right.
Maybe the jacket when it gets in the fall that I've got.
Oh, they have a jacket?
Oh, yeah, they got nice, well, not jacket, but like a
shacket.
Oh, yeah. You know my look.
Yeah.
It's unbuttoned over.
The look that I perfected.
I didn't know that.
I have one.
But, so anyway, they were just running around, and oddly enough, Cade Bickham was holding it together.
Oddly enough is the right way to phrase it.
Panicum was like steady.
Yeah.
Steady as she goes.
But
so anyway, that's what I walked into this morning. I land from Chicago. I've got, dog's got diarrhea, wakes me up early. I come into this.
This should be your happy place.
And then we got Elko presser today. Kaylee Dreyer wants me to do an interview at 11. I told her, hey, did you look at the text above where I told you I have an appointment at 11?
Wow, you just destroyed her right there on the air.
I mean, it's just
she's managing a lot of people, Billy.
She is. She's the best. She is the unsung hero, honestly.
Yeah.
Of all that I just said.
Dealing with our personalities and scheduling.
Yeah. Scheduling college athletes who are actually really great, but imagine having to schedule that constantly.
Yeah.
Daily. It's tough. I know you wouldn't be, you know how it feels, and you just have to handle me.
I don't
Imagine
handle
if you had 85 of them.
I have like things in play just in case. Like, all right, what are we going to do here?
Oh! Ow!
Was it that hot?
Feel it.
Is it? That feels great.
Oh, God.
Sorry. Some of us have man hands.
Nuno, for all you do, you ain't got a callus one on there.
I do have calluses right there.
You have soft hands.
Bro.
Feminine. Almost as if that you use lotion.
I don't use it well. I don't.
Can we talk football?
Oh.
By the way, you know where I went this weekend? I went to Cubs Yankees, which was great. Shout out Blue Delta.
Yeah.
They're on Nick Weaver and Blue Delta. Nick always he might be the unsung hero of the SEC.
He's hooked up a lot of people.
Yeah, so we did that, and then I ended up, shout out another one of our friends up there, I ended up with some Lollapalooza passes. I hasn't been there in quite some time. So shout out Taylor McGregor, Cubs also, SEC, well, not SEC, college football. Rising star, by the way, in case you were wondering. And went to Lollapalooza for the first time since
1996.
Probably. I think I've been to one, but I've never been in Chicago. Quite an experience. So many people. I don't know how many. I'd like to look up. Why don't you look up how many people attended this thing? Because all the girls out there were jealous because I was going to get to see Tate McRae. Who's all their favorites. And I understand why. And I went Chainsmokers, Tate McRae, some other band that was pretty good. I got to look them up during the break. I'll figure out who they were because people listening might like them. But, I mean, I don't think I've ever been to any event ever with that many people. And I will say this, Lollapalooza has gotten very young. If I wouldn't have had, passes, that would have been a hard deal to attend because they were so young and there were so many people. But It was a blast. I ended up loving it. Like once we got in there and got settled, It was great. Sunday night. So
let's hit a break. We'll come back with a real segment on the other side. Right now, we are talking about Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. If you're a business owner and you're ready to take your operation to the next level, check out Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They've expanded their selection of commercial vehicles, and they want to meet your everyday need. They've got it all, so when you go there, you're going to find the right vehicle for you and your situation. And they are a business elite dealer, which means they understand what it takes to keep your company moving forward. And remember, when you go there, you get that commercial vehicle purchase, comes with that legendary free oil change for life because they believe in supporting local business. Remember, it's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan, to the beginnings of Caldwell. A short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm here to tell you about Fratello Italian Cafe. If anyone knows anything about Italian food, it's me, Billy Liucci. And Fratello has the best Italian food in BCS. Located at 3901 South Texas Avenue, Fratello is known for their handmade pasta dishes and feature lasagna, beef cannelloni, chicken parmesan, chicken fettuccine alfredo, a couple of my favorites, just a big old bowl of plain old spaghetti and some manicotti. Really recommend the manicotti. That's my go-to. And don't walk out of there without trying the fresh, piping hot breadsticks and the homemade in-house cheesecake, which is incredible. It's great for dining in, catering, gift cards, and even shipping, which they do nationwide. Fratello's is Aggie-owned and operated, and it's an official restaurant partner of Texas A&M Athletics. I'll see you there.
I have Billy Liucci in the studio and all the compliments he gives me during the break. Billy, let's
compliment you. During the break, he's literally sitting here trying to figure out how many of Chicago's youth he could beat up at one time at Lollapalooza.
I'm over
That's
here
where it went.
responding to my brother, and Billy says to me, "Oh, you would have gotten pummeled there. They would have destroyed you." And then he says, "Because I think you would have started a fight with a young guy."
Well, that's what I said.
I don't start fights with anybody. I'm all about the peace.
I'm all about Aggie football.
Okay.
I'm all about 5-5, which
starts.
Yeah, I feel like everybody does some form of fives. There's all the fives now. 5-5 goes back how long? Like
31 years.
A long time. We started it yesterday. Got one coming out today. I think today's was. What did I send Zane today? Today was like the players that really caught my eye this offseason in one way or the other. Whether it's coming in here, whether it's what I've heard from sources, you know, what the players have said, what some other sources have said, just guys that I'm like, man, get ready because, and it's to varying degrees. Like one of them's like Anto Saka, who is going to obviously compete to start, likely starter, or maybe you have a 3-man rotation at end, whatever. But one of your top portal additions and a guy that's been beyond impressive. Another one's Terry Bussey, because I just don't think I saw people were talking about the weight he gained and kind of questioning, hey, is it going to be good weight or not? Because he was already big. No, like I was shocked when I saw the weight gain from Terry Bussey because I'd been telling people it looks like he's leaned up. So he had a terrific offseason. It's as someone told me. Bussey was hurt in high school. He enrolled in June. He got here. He was playing he missed still some time in the summer. Then fall camp started. He's playing cornerback. Halfway through, they moved him to receiver. And then he missed last offseason, injured. This was his first full offseason. And, he was hurt in spring, but people made a big deal about that the day he got hurt. Same way they did Ashton Bethel Roman. Those guys are back and healthy. As they were a couple months ago. Neither one of them was any kind of long-term injury. So Bussey's essentially gone through the entire offseason. He looks so different. Then I've also got a guy like Tamarian Watkins, who added so much weight, and I don't know where it ends for him in terms of his size, but he's still got plenty of room to grow, and he came in looking like, to me, I was like, man, he might grow into like a Antonio Johnson type of safety. Now I'm sitting there going, man, is he going to be a 6'3", 237-pound linebacker that runs like a safety? I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch because he's so talented. But anyway, that's today's 5 and 5. So there's just a ton to talk about. And then starting tomorrow, we have actual practice to discuss.
Yeah. What is, I don't want us to call it concern, but what is the thing you're watching out for week one? Like
week one.
Yeah, just like over the first couple of practices, if you were to say, hey, these are things I just want to see how they look, have developed from spring to now, if there's 2 or 3 things you got your eyes on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm concerned about anything to start fall camp. There are things that you're concerned about. We've talked all summer, all off season, going into the season. Like you got to see the O-line, you got to see Marcel make that next step, that jump. You got to see the running game come, the pass rush. So concern probably in week one wouldn't be what I'm feeling. It would be more like interest. So number one to me is the interest level in seeing who the guys are up front. Now, in day one, like they'll be overkill. It'll be interesting just day one, practice one, who's out there. Starting 5. They'll change it around pretty much daily for a while. But so maybe it's not a week, maybe it's midway through fall camp, like 2 weeks. Like when do you start getting that feel? Okay, I think this is going to be the starting 5. If you ask me today, I think I'd go Formby at right tackle, maybe Ivy at right guard, Naboo at center, Ball at left guard, Adams left tackle. But see, here's Lamont Rogers. I've written about him. He's going to be a guy that it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. And he's probably left tackle, could probably play either, but it's going to be hard to keep Lamont. He had a really eye-opening spring followed by a really strong summer off season. And so Lamont, Thomas, I like Tyler Thomas at guard when he's out there. It looks like just a mountain of a dude. And then and also Cohen Eccles is going to factor in. He's going to factor in big time there in that battle at guard. Eccles can play guard or center, so that was why he was such a good addition himself. So, anywho, I think
keep some of those other thoughts for the other side.
Okay,
we'll identify a couple
short
more here.
Break.
We'll
top of the hour.
Let's start at 50 and
top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you. When we come back on TexAgs Live, more Billy Liucci here on the program.
And we're back. It's TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner Jewelers. We're in the Rollo Insurance Studio. And Billy, we were talking about the offensive line. I wanted to look ahead at some other things you're watching. But since we were talking offensive line, let's do 25 and 25, presented by Paragon Financial Advisors. An Aggie-owned, independent fee-only fiduciary serving families and business owners nationwide. Visit paragon-adv.com. And number 19 on the list, Travon Ball. We were talking a little bit about him during the break. I think that's why you brought him up. Let's chit-chat about the South Carolina transfer who has kind of worked his way into being a real mainstay on that line.
Well, TBD, right? Like a primary contender.
There we go.
To start. I think also another one we were talking about that I didn't mention that I've been super high on from the jump, and a lot of teams tried to poach Lamont because of his, everybody knew his high school rating and they knew he didn't play as a true freshman much at all. So then they think A&M's paying for all these portal O-linemen. We're going to go get him. They went after Lamont. They went after Blake Ivy. And these are SEC schools. And multiple ones we're going to play. We're talking about the Texases, the LSUs of the world. Yes, you. And Texas ended up settling for another way down the depth chart O-lineman here. And then Robbie Borden. Robbie Borden is another guy that was being courted. Now he's like Ivy. He's going into year 3. And you saw him a little bit last year, most notably in the Utah State game, because Zune went out with, I think he played a significant amount of time in that one. But he's ready to be, like Cole Kubelik had a phrase for it that I like. And he was talking about how many above the line guys do you have? And those guys are all above the line guys. Now, it's going to be difficult to beat out Ball at left guard because he's experienced, he's big. When I say big, I mean he's one of the biggest linemen I think A&M has in terms of just if they all walked into this room,
you would notice
he'd be one of the standouts and you go, damn, who's that? And it makes sense because he's a veteran of the SEC trenches. He's a veteran of an SEC weight room. But you look at him now versus what he looked like when he got here, and it's pretty eye-opening the progress he's made in one offseason under Tommy Moffitt. That's like, to me, it's a testament to what A&M does in the offseason in the weight room. You look at certain guys, you hear Ricky Gibson come in here, and he was talking to me about it, a few weeks ago, like comparing this offseason under Moffitt to, like, say, a Tennessee one. So that's where those portal additions really, you can glean a lot. And Ball comes in and he just looks so much different than he did when he got here. But he's a man mountain at that spot. I don't think he's going to be your quickest, most nimble guy, in there. But he'll remind you of Chase Besantis in terms of the strength and physicality, like the ability to kind of move guys and that sheer size. Now, Besantis had very unusual athleticism to go with that size and that freakish strength, which is why he was just outside the first round of the NFL draft after 3 years in college. So we're talking about different thing here, but I think Ball can replace some of that, replicate some of that physicality. And I think he will move guys off the line of scrimmage. And I think that's something that's a point of emphasis this year for the Aggies up front is displacing defenders and getting them out of the way. And you go back and you look, what held A&M back in the last few games of the season? So much is made about, everyone wants to point to Marcel. Oh, well, the quarterback. I've said it a million times. Go look at the rushing game numbers from game 1 to game, and there was an exception or two, but not many. Go look at the run game numbers from game 1 to game 9. And obviously, it was game 10, game 12, and game 13. Samford was in there. But their last 3 real games, they weren't running the ball at all. And part of that comes when you're not getting guys and rooting them out and off the line of scrimmage. And that's what Travon Ball can do. And he can do it really well. And I think that's what makes him a real asset to this group. People, you know, I felt like because he was from South Carolina and because he didn't have as much starting experience as some of these other guys, and, you know, look, when you're taking guys from LSU in Adams and Eccles, and you're taking a guy from Bama in Formby, they went out and took Trevon Ball. There were other linemen in the portal. There are other linemen that went to some good SEC schools. You know, I'm hearing a lot about, one thing to pay attention to is, I saw a thing the other day, and they've got Texas Melvin Siani as like the number 4 draft prospect at tackle. And the Aggies needed tackles. They didn't really go after him at all. And you know Elko's got strong connections to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
But he didn't allow a sack last year, which jumps out at you. But it's also why you see him all the way up on all these draft boards. And I'm not saying he very well could. Not everybody is going, but they picked Ball. And they didn't really make a hard, he's a tackle. They picked Formby and they picked Tyree. You didn't see them push and go hard after Siani. You did see them bring in Peak, who they had connections to from NC State and Casey Concepcion. They brought him in on a visit. And they chose Tyree Adams. Right. Peak would have come. He ended up at South Carolina, where Ball's coming from. Got injured. I don't know his status as they start camp. But these are like difficult choices. And Peak would have moved the needle off the charts for the fans. Trevon Ball didn't. He may be a guy that starts for you and goes on to the NFL. Like he's got that type of potential. So it's always interesting to follow and monitor like which direction your school went versus didn't go in recruiting. And then so like watching Siani in Austin and Peak at South Carolina, and then guys like Ball and Tyree Adams and Formby here, going to be really interesting to see. And A&M, you know, they have to have gotten it right because there's no option of an offensive line that struggles this year because there's too much at stake. You got too much skill position talent. You got a quarterback that I do think is prepared to take that next step if they have a running game, if they have blocking.
Well, I want to follow that up with yesterday's 25-25 was Mark Naboo, and the importance was so much made about offensive line chemistry and yada, yada, yada. Naboo being the center who touches the ball in every single play, who is the captain of that offensive line, I wonder how much of a difference that makes when it comes to the transition of a brand new offensive line.
I mean, he's gotten rave reviews from teammates this summer in terms of kind of being the centerpiece and the heartbeat of that group. I think Formby is going to provide a lot too in the way of personality and just togetherness. But they seem like a fun group that really likes each other, which is hard to do. And Naboo is that guy. And then he's also going to have to be on the field here in camp, you know, particularly with his right guard, with his right guard, left guard, and also helping out Marcel. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to have a guy come back and you're going to have one returning starter,
that's the
I
guy.
think you want it to be your center. And I know Zune played center some last year too, but this is Mark Naboo's going into year 4. I remember him as a camper here, much like Zune. They were both guys that you hadn't heard of before they came to camp here. Now, look, one of them's from Seattle area, one of them's from Colorado. Zune had A&M ties, but maybe a day before, we heard there's a guy from Colorado coming, and he walks into the indoor. You're like, who's this guy coming back from the NFL? And it's Trey Zune, a high school prospect from Colorado. Right. He commits right on the spot. Mark Naboo comes to camp and just stood out. He came with a contingent of linemen from that area in the Pacific Northwest. Comes down, gets an offer, commits pretty quickly, and you know, he's a guy that could have left in today's college world because he had to bide his time. He's from all the way across the country, and he stayed, and it's paid off because he is, like, I think he's the anchor of this line. Now, does he have to get better too? Of course. I mean, I don't know why some people around this conference, almost like, well, fans, but even some media, get like it's offensive to say this guy's got to get better. It's not offensive. Like, if you're Mark Naboo and you don't get better, you don't go to the NFL. You don't become an all SEC player. Like, that's his goal. His goal is to get better. Same with Marcel Reed. It's not an insult to say Marcel has to get better than last year. You can also say Marcel was really good last year. He's got to get better. You can say the same thing about John Mateer, about Arch Manning, about Lenora Sellers. But it's not insulting to say that. And so Naboo is a guy that can make this jump now, because as long as he's been here, he's finally, after year 3, what I would call an experienced SEC player. So now, to me, it should all just be honing your craft. He should feel comfortable. He should feel confident. I think he's gotten a lot stronger in the weight room, which early in his career, I think, held him back some. Now he's going into year 4 like, this is a grown man out there. And I can tell he's really got the respect of the locker room and his teammates, which matters to me a ton when I'm talking about, of all the positions not named quarterback, I want my standout linebacker and my center to be that guy, because they have the potential. And I know this because I've lived with a couple of dudes that played center for a long time. One in Seth McKinney at A&M, and Steve McKinney played a lot of center in the NFL. You've got to have that personality. You've got to have that draw. You've got to have the team, respect you, but also really like you and believe in you. And that's what I'm feeling with Mark Naboo right now.
So before we went down the offensive line path, I did ask you, what are you paying special attention to?
Running back. Ruben Owens and Jamarian Morrow in particular. I just really want to see these guys hit the ground running, no pun intended. Just start strong. I need to see Ruben. I know Ruben's a solid back, but I need to see Ruben in camp, especially early, where I'm going, okay, he's looking different.
Yep.
He's looking like he looks like a different guy. He's carrying a little more weight. He looks good physically. I want to see him run. And there you see Morrow. I remember when Morrow got here last spring, you would see these runs where he was just ripping into the secondary, ripping through the line of scrimmage. You look up and he's 15 yards into the defense. I think he can do that consistently. And I want to see him do that consistently in camp, because to me, Jamarian Morrow is going to be a home run hitter for the offense this season. And he has to be. This is a position they didn't go to the port on. Now, I wrote about Tiger Ryden the other day as someone no one's talking about. He had he's had a really good offseason. The guy got hurt last year. He turned heads in the spring, then he got hurt right at the start of fall camp in an off-field thing and was lost for most of the season. He might be the guy to get you those 3 to 5 that you need throughout the course of a game to wear people down. But Jamarian Morrow, to me, he's the home run hitter. And I'm not overlooking, obviously, 5-star in KJ Edwards and Carson Baker. But Morrow was there last year, that talented true freshman. I think he's a guy that could break out this season. So I want to see, Ruben Owens. I want to watch him in week 1 and go, damn, he looks different. He looks different running the ball. There's a different feel. Trooper Taylor's gotten to him where there's a different feel for the blocking and hitting the hole and exploding through it. And then in the case of Morrow, I want to feel like very quickly in camp, okay, I was right about him. What everyone was telling me about him was also right, which is he has a chance to be really special.
So who could be the Morrow this year? If you go back to last year, Lev obviously starting the season, Ruben, you had EJ, and then you had kind of Jamarian, who would get these moments where you're like, okay, I see the future.
I think that's...
Is it Tiger maybe, because we didn't see him last year?
It might be Tiger, because I think KJ Edwards, to me, is going to be... And that'll be one to watch, too, because you just want to see... He missed a lot of spring. Spring training, not off-season. He missed a lot of spring, and it's like he was turning a lot of heads just with the way he moved and the quickness and the suddenness during the pre-spring off season. So I want to see him, like, keep in mind, this is one of the top running backs in the country.
Right.
Now, everybody's talking about Landon Williams-Callis from last week because he chose Texas. So that's been the running back we're all talking about. Don't forget, they have a 5-star signee that was ranked as high as just about anyone last year that put up ridiculous numbers during his career at Carthage, including state championships. And he's on campus. He's here now. This is not a recruit that we're talking about for next season. He's here. And people are going to start seeing him for the first time. So if you want to talk about like a true wild card for this team, as we all know, if there's a position where a true freshman can come in and have an impact, there are a few where you see it happen as often as running back. But he'll just have to, I think that'll be as the season progresses. So I think it'll be a Morrow type of thing, but there's
Maybe
less depth at the top.
Yeah.
So Morrow was competing. You mentioned, you know, there was Moss early, there was Owens, there was Amari Daniels, there was E.J. Smith. There were 4 veteran backs ahead of Jamarian Morrow when he got here. 4. Okay. Right now, in terms of KJ Edwards, there's 2. I don't count Tiger Ryden because he hadn't played yet.
Right.
So it's Ryden, it's Edwards, and it's Baker, the other really talented true freshman, but they're only behind 2. Whereas last year, Morrow was behind 4. So it's a big difference. And Ryden too, but Ryden, again, like I said, got injured before camp.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with one final segment with Billy before we're joined by Luke from the Bahamas. Right now, the Association of Former Students is here for the Aggie Network, from the first howdy to the final here. Whether you graduated from A&M or enjoying retirement, the association wants to make sure you're staying plugged in with the Aggie Network. So what you should do is follow the association on social media. Look for @Aggie Network on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. Join your local A&M club and find Aggies near you at tx.ag/clubs. And go on a traveling Aggies trip. Join fellow Aggies for a trip of a lifetime. So whether you're looking for a European destination, winter excursion, or hot tropical destination, there's a trip for everyone. So visit tx.ag/traveling Aggies to learn more and to stay up to date with what's going around the Aggie Network by scrolling the AggieSpirit.com. That is the AggieSpirit.com, a website that is all things across Aggie social news, video, and much, much more. Remember, the association is here whether you need help finding Aggies near you or you want to travel or attend an away game and hang out with fellow Aggies. Don't hesitate to check it out. It is the Association of Former Students. And we're back. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy, is there a position group that we on this show have maybe not talked about enough? Is there like, hey, you know what?
Group?
Yeah.
I know. I feel like we've talked a lot about the secondary.
Yep.
One of the things, one of the storylines I'm writing about today is linebacker. Like, you got the Sanford. We're going to be monitoring like his progress back from the injury to kind of gauge when you'll see him back. I've stated from day one that I think he would be back a lot sooner. People were like, he's done, and they were like, it's might be able to play this season, and they were like mid-season, where those were some national reports, and I kept saying it's everybody's wrong there, but we don't know when exactly. I think Damian's made great progress during the offseason. I think that's a simple way to state it. And I think starting tomorrow, you'll have all eyes on him, whenever they're out at practice. Whether we're out there for the first 20 minutes or the whole practice, people are going to be watching Damian. It's, the tough part I wonder about the injury is it's one thing to be out there and getting back and moving around and running. It's another when you got people, when you're tackling and there are people coming, falling around you and things like that. So that'll be the litmus test when you start to get a feel for like, when can we free him up to do all of that? And it might be tomorrow. I don't know the answer to that, but when can he be freed up to do all of that? And then there's a certain amount of time where things like the timing and the old school Sanford physicality and the flying around when that kind of clicks, because he's practiced in pads enough and he's taken enough hits and given enough hits, and where he's comfortable and he's back to being the guy we saw make a lot of plays last year. And I think he's poised for a great senior season. And I don't think it's a deal where he's going to be out for like some long time. So we'll watch that. But then also, that linebacker position, I think it has a chance to be good and like better than it's been. But that's an if, because Noah McHale has to make, speaking of jumps, he has to make a significant jump, which he was a true freshman. Everybody says that year 1 to year 2 jump, right? Noah is that guy. He's big, he's physical, he's fast, he makes a lot of plays with his hands in the passing game. He gets his hands on footballs a lot. He seems to have a good feel for jumping in that passing lane, kind of hidden there in that second level. Something you really like to see with a linebacker is to have a knack for where the football's going. But him, I don't. Here's a guy I don't think we talk about enough is Ray Coney coming in from Tulsa, and I think Coney is a dude that you might look up and he might be in the starting lineup. And then you got Jordan Lockhart in year 3, who's as big and physical as any of them, and he's a real leader out there. He's really got the respect of his teammates. Yeah. He's an energy guy. He's smart. So who is going to be the most reliable player or two outside of Sanford for Mike Elko that's going to be where they need to be? You always hear him talk about misalignment or misfit. Like, who is going to be the player that you don't have to worry about that as much with, and the guy that you have full confidence is going to be where he needs to be on any given snap? Because that, to me, is what has been lacking as much as anything. And who's going to take on a block and not get gobbled up by the offensive lineman, where you feel like, man, where's the linebacker? Oh, there he is. You can barely see him because he let that lineman, get to him at that second level, where he just on the linebacker just kind of disappears. And you saw that some against Miami. You saw it a lot against Notre Dame, Miami, Texas. These are the games where A&M had real issues stopping the run. And there were others, Arkansas, to some level, Missouri. And a lot of times, there's exception in there too, but like Texas, Miami, Notre Dame, big physical offensive lines. And I thought the Aggie linebackers not only had a hard time shedding, but they had a hard time just avoiding initially. Because, if you're a 230-pound linebacker, you're going to have a hard time escaping a 320-pound lineman when he gets both hands on you. So but the way to do it is you can't dance around them and not be back in the hole you're supposed to be in either. So to me, like that's an area where they're putting a lot of emphasis. So which of those guys can do that? Because those are the guys that are going to start and play the most. And Sanford's certainly one of them. But out of that other group, who's the most willing and able to be the most consistent and I think the most physical?
One more group for you that I don't think I've talked enough about is tight ends. And I think there's a lot
absolutely.
That's a group that, I mean, there's some talent coming in for sure, but overall, I don't know how that shakes out.
Yeah, and I actually brought that up to Marcel in an interview last week, and I told him, I said, hey, we're going to talk tight ends because we haven't, I feel like we've talked a lot about everything except that. And as an old high school tight end who lived in college with a couple of longtime NFL tight ends, Hunter and Dan, and then also grew up a big fan of Mark Bavaro, one of the all-time tight ends. With all that said, you'd think I would pay a little more time, give a little more time to the tight ends this offseason. I don't think we have. I mentioned in the article the other day, I think yesterday, Richie Anderson really stands out to me right now. From Fresno State, he came in known as a physical point of attack guy that could catch and run some too, but he was heavy. Like he had some weight. It didn't matter if you're known as a physical mauler as a blocker. You see him now. He's going to be one of the guys that tomorrow everybody goes, oh, he's transformed under Tommy Moffitt a lot. And it's funny because KK Johnson, the true freshman tight end, gained like 30-something pounds. He looked like he just stepped in from an NFL field. And then you got Keati Armstrong at about 280. Looks like I don't even know who I'm trying to think of a tight end. He looks like a throwback tight end back in the day. So the young talent is what's going to jump out the most to anyone that's at practice. And like if NFL scouts came in, they'd be like, damn, who are these two? Right. Well, they're a freshman, year one guy in his first practice ever at A&M in the fall. And then there's a year two guy who was a true freshman last year. But they're very raw still. And I do think, Keati's going to get some looks, here in the season. He's going to play. But they're still very young and very raw. Richie Anderson just jumped out at me. He leaned up a lot, like noticeably, and he's going to look a lot more athletic than he did, I think, in the spring and even on tape at Fresno. And he's got the hands, and like I said, he's physical. He knows how to, body position to get the football. And then, Houston Thomas, we don't talk about enough. Houston Thomas, go watch. I mean, Bronny's been covering him since he was really young here locally, but go watch him at College Station High, and then watch him UTSA. Some of the catches, he's a super athletic. You watch him and you think of somebody with a basketball background, just the body position, the way he goes up and gets the football, high points it, the vision, on how to time your jump, how to position yourself. Like he's got, I guess the word I'm looking for here is just feel for the passing game. That's going to be a big asset for A&M. And, you've also got a team captain at tight end. And I think he is a guy that impressed me so much during our captain's interview, Mike O'Reilly, that I'm just like, I want to see how a guy who, when he got here, Cole Kubelik was excited about it. Cole, is as close to Auburn in terms of what they're doing as anybody. He said, man, you guys got a good one. Like, he'll kick your ass. And he's got that respect of the locker room, clearly, to be voted a captain when he didn't play a lot last year. He played, but he was your definitely no better than your third tight end last year. Now he's coming back. He knows the offense. He's, man, he walks in. He's an impressive looking college tight end. He's an older dude. He's been at Auburn. He's played in a couple Iron Bowls. He's played in A&M Texas. I'm really interested to see what kind of impact he can have, because I don't think he's just there for vibes. I don't think he's just there for leadership and to say the right thing at the right time and to be kind of as they've said, that sometimes the bridge between players and coaches just kind of be the guy to go say the tough thing to a coach that maybe they don't want to say, like, hey, coach, we can, and you need that. It's great. But I think he's preparing to make an impact on the field as well. And I don't think A&M signed him out of Auburn to be a locker room. There's a lot of these guys that there's a transition period for transfers. And so just like a year or two player, a year or two transfer can make a significant jump as well. And I think you've seen it here. You saw it with Cassius Howell. Well, he was biding his time behind people, but I mean, he made a big jump as a player from year 1 to year 2, and you've seen it with a couple other. Will Lee was another guy I think did that. Des Ricks certainly did that. Ratcliffe did that. And some of those guys were like playing a lot more in year 1. So like Michael Riley, I think absolutely can make that year 1 to year 2 jump. The tight end position, to me, has the widest range. Like, is it so much? Is the receiving room so talented that we see, and is Marcel more comfortable with it being wide open, that we see more wide open looks and sets? You don't see as much of the multiple tight ends, and they're used less, or are they used? Are they a weapon, a strength, where you can run the ball better with them on the field? You feel good about their blocking enough that you see more of that? Is it a week-to-week mix fluctuation? That's what I think we'll see. But again, like Houston Thomas, I think Micah Riley, and some of those guys are so big that I do think you might actually see they're versatile enough to line up as big inside receivers as well. So I don't think it's a world where they're not on the field. I just think it's a world where maybe Holman Wiggins uses them in a little more versatile way than we think. And that would explain maybe someone like Richie Anderson really leaning up and becoming a more like svelte-looking athlete at the position.
Thank you, Billy.
All right.
Appreciate you. When we come back here on TexAgs Live, Luke Evangelist from the Bahamas. Let's talk about Paragon Financial Advisors now. Great teams don't chase quick wins. They build for long-term success, and that's the same philosophy that applies to your financial life and your business. And at Aggie-owned and operated Paragon Financial Advisors, the focus isn't on chasing headlines or reacting to every market move. It goes deeper than that. It's about building thoughtful financial plan that helps you pursue the goals that you have for years to come. That means helping families prepare for retirement, guiding business owners as they grow successful companies, and helping them prepare for the day that they're ready for the transition of that business they've worked so hard to build. If you're ready to take the long view, visit paragon-adv.com for more. Paragon Financial Advisors, Aggie-owned and independent, serving clients nationwide.
Yes, I do know that camp starts tomorrow, and all the attention in the world is on football, but TexAgs wants to cover every sport better than anyone. And there's only one reporter in the world that was allowed to go to the Bahamas and cover Texas A&M. His name is Luke Evangelist, and he's here with us now, live from the Bahamas, and it looks like his grandmother's kitchen. Luke, good morning, sir.
Yes. This is actually my grandmother's kitchen, so I had to wear a shirt that was fitting. I've got a shirt that you'd probably see on your grandmother. Very old-fashioned, tropical fruit, basic design. It's probably not my best Hawaiian shirt, but that's why I decided to wear it on TexAgs Live, because I have to wear my best ones for the games.
So, just out of curiosity, did you go buy wardrobe for this trip, or you already had your Larry David starter kit at home?
Well, so I actually have 3 Hawaiian shirts at home, but in future planning for maybe coming here in November, I know I had to go stock up. So I did go buy 3 more before this trip. And so the ones that you've been seeing make the rounds on TexAgs content and videos, those were new purchases. This is one of the old ones, hence why, I don't think it's one of my best, but I think the one I've got for the 3rd game is probably the best one I have.
Okay, well, let's look back at yesterday and look ahead to this afternoon. So just your initial takeaway from the first time watching buckyball in an organized /scrimmage/game.
Yeah, it looked very much like a quad 4 home game that you would see them play in the first week of the season. Some things looked disorganized, other things looked good. But I saw a lot of progress from where this team was in August last year. I know it's hard to compare because last year's circumstances were just a total mess with the team getting here late, Bucky getting here late, and so they were really behind. But this year's team, how they looked right now from what I saw from the game yesterday, is a lot how they looked in their first couple of bye games last year. Defensively, they've still got a ways to go. What you saw from them against Oklahoma State, where nobody could guard on the perimeter and they really struggled one-on-one, is pretty much what you saw yesterday, hence why they gave up 88 points. But that's to be expected early in the year. Offensively, you expect guys to be able to go get downhill against inferior athletes. But defensively, when you're playing in the Bahamas and you're up 20-30 most of the game, it's hard for those guys to lock in and stay focused. So you definitely saw defensive lapses. And then something that I didn't really see all summer that, popped up yesterday was poor free throw shooting. Aside from Cade Phillips, I feel like I've seen everybody on this team be a pretty good free throw shooter. And so for them to shoot 58% was a little bit concerning. But I'll continue to watch that and how they shoot free throws the rest of the way. But overall, not too much to complain about because you'd rather have these moments of lapses in August than November. And so I trust that this staff, given 3 months to fix it, anything that I saw that's a concern, I think, they've got plenty of time to try and fix it.
Luke, I don't know the answer to this, but how did Arkansas look yesterday? Did you see similar kind of issues?
Oh, for sure. Arkansas's entire team was out of the casino the night before the game. So they were looking like they wanted to go home. They've been here since Wednesday. So they've been here almost a whole week, and it definitely showed. They were really sloppy, but they've got 4 7-footers. One of them isn't even eligible to play. So when you get to the season, they'll have 5 7-footers. They're super athletic, but overall really sloppy. Billy Richmond is probably my favorite non-A&M SEC player, just because I love the way that he plays. He's super athletic, super fast, and he had 5 turnovers in the first 4 minutes of the game. And so they definitely look like they were in the Bahamas in August, just banking on their athleticism to get by teams. But, the team that they were playing, Toros de Val, is the one that A&M is going to play today. And physically, they gave Arkansas everything they could handle inside. It was just Arkansas is a top 10 team in the country, and they were eventually able to overpower them. But it was a 8 to 9 point game for the entire first half. So Arkansas looked really sloppy. They were without one of their best players, similar to how A&M is without Bryson Warren, both players just awaiting eligibility. But yeah, Arkansas for sure looked like a team that was lapsing in focus, didn't really take care of the ball much, but A&M's going to have their hands full with the team that they just played. Very physical, very fast, and so that's going to play into their style. But yeah, Arkansas's got a ways to go, just as A&M does.
Talking to Luke Evangelist, who's live in the Bahamas. All right, Luke, let's kind of just look at PJ Haggerty. Give me some thoughts from what you saw from him, because I know the ability to score is always going to be there, but some other things caught your attention.
Yeah, PJ's an interesting player because you watch him and it's like he just looks so nonchalant out there, and you're wondering, is he really locked into the game? And then, in a moment's notice, he'll score 8 points on 5 possessions. And he's really known for playing fast and playing up tempo. But what I saw from him yesterday was a lot of patience driving to the hoop. When you think of PJ's game, you think he's just going to straight line drive, but he worked really well yesterday in the pick and roll with Jamie Vinson, being really patient for Jamie to set up those screens and weaving his way through defenders. So it took him a little bit to get involved in the game. I thought early A&M's forwards were really, dominating the game with Jamie scoring inside, Cade Phillips scoring inside. It took a little bit for the guards to get involved, but once PJ did, he was huge at the end of the first half to push it from an 8 to 9 point game to like a 19 to 20 point game with his patience. And then he also had 5 rebounds and 4 steals. So when you think of PJ Haggerty and the narrative about him of, really just being interested in scoring the ball and not doing anything else, I thought he was a really active defender and really pushing for rebounds and hustling out there, which is an encouraging sign because I too have those questions of, can you get a player who knows he can get 25 points at any given time to lock in and do those other things that buckyball requires of them? And I thought PJ put a good showing out there for his first time.
And then Mackenzie Mbako. Is this the version that you saw last summer that you were raving about? What'd you see from him yesterday?
Yeah, he had 17 points, and he didn't shoot the 3 well at all. He was 1 for 5. And they were good looks. They just weren't falling. Him being the player that Mackenzie is right now, all I can really quantify it as is that he's fully healthy. He's not the version that I saw coming off of the NBA draft workouts last summer. He's getting there, but I don't think he's there yet. But this is a baseline of a fully healthy Mackenzie Mbako. What does he look like playing, I think, 20 minutes or 17 minutes? And he has 17 points. Efficient from him. I really like that when his 3s weren't falling, he would immediately be like, okay, I'm done hunting the 3. I'm just going to go drive downhill. And I thought he was really good attacking at the rim. His foot looks fine. His athleticism looks fine. This is probably a good baseline for what a healthy Mackenzie can be. But I don't think we're there yet of a, second round pick, first round pick potential that I saw last summer. But he's definitely getting there. Once that 3 starts to fall, if he knocks down 2 more of those 3s, that's 23 points in 17 minutes, which is when I would say, okay, he's got all 3 phases of his game working, but he's getting there. He's definitely making a lot of progress.
So, all right, in the afternoon game, what are you looking out for? What's something that you want to see from yesterday to today?
Well, I want to see 40 minutes of buckyball. I think they completely understandable, lost a little bit of focus yesterday after going up 30. Victoria trimmed it all the way down to 11. I want to see 40 minutes of focus and intensity. And when that lead does get up to 20 or 30, I should say, if it does get up to 20 or 30, they maintain that focus and win by 40 like Arkansas ended up doing last night. But this team they're playing is a professional team from Columbia that's made up of 25 to 30-year-olds who are physically built like SEC players. And they just won their league title about 6 weeks ago. So they've been playing together. They know each other well. Offensively, they move the ball well. So that's going to be a challenge for A&M's defense that likes to limit long passes. They try and take away they try and take teams out of their rhythm with on-ball pressure. So I want to see A&M's point of attack defenders be better to make sure you can't allow this Colombian professional team to get into their rhythm and get into their system and move the ball as I saw them do in the first half against Arkansas. So defensively, I want to see improvement from A&M. It'll be a better challenge than Victoria, but I want to see their perimeter defenders and interior defenders come with a little bit more intensity than they had yesterday.
Out of curiosity, how did Bucky take yesterday?
You know, I had a great interview with him after the game, and he was as open and honest as he always is, not concerned about the three-point shooting, not really too concerned about anything offensively because they still don't have everything in place. He understands it's a work in progress, and I think he's happy that they're getting to work it out now as opposed to the first week of the season, but definitely has some adjustments coming defensively for what scheme you saw from A&M in the first half, and they changed it in the second half. I think they're definitely moving away from what you saw defensively in the second half. So he's got some adjustments. He's got some things to work on, but overall, he's not too concerned because he knows his team better than anyone else. And what you saw in that first game is about the same as what you've seen in the summer. But he's encouraged with how his team looks offensively. He just wants to see them put it together for 40 minutes and play with some better defensive intensity. And when they change the scheme back to what they were running in the first half, I think you're going to see more from that defensive intensity that he wants to see from his team. But overall, he was pleased and ready to go hop in the lazy river and go to the beach after the game.
Luke, great work, man. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yep. Thank you, David.
Thanks. That's Luke Evangelist here on TexAgs Live. We'll hit a break, come back with a final segment to wrap up the show and set you up for tomorrow. It's TexAgs. Segment of the program, Cage. You got me again. Goodness gracious. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was a little late on the button. I could hear it.
We go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Are you ready to touch the button?
I think I am.
All right. Let's. What do you have for us?
So ESPN's Bill.
He's Carson Stein, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you for responding to me.
ESPN's Bill Connelly just released his top 40 most important players for the college football season. Marcel Reed coming in at number 8. He says, well, he has John Mateer at 7, and he compares the two quite a bit in his breakdown, saying Reed.
I think that's fair, by the way.
He said Reed was more like a dangerous Mateer. His mistakes were just as cataclysmic. He had an even higher interception rate and lower completion rate, but he also made more big-time passes and rushed for more yards in far fewer attempts.
I don't have a problem with any of that. Give me the 1 through 6 because we already know 7 or 8.
Okay. Number 1, I found quite surprising. He has Alabama's quarterback, Keelan Russell.
And how did he phrase the what's the headline of this again?
Top 40 most important players in college football.
If Keelan Russell turns out to be a stud, people are going to look at Alabama completely different. They are. Because this is year 3 for Kalen DeBoer. If he or Austin Mack turns out to be the guy, like, oh my goodness, I can see that. And that's why he is very important to their successes. All quarterbacks are. But anyway, who's 2?
Josh Hoover of Indiana.
I would have put Josh Hoover number 1, personally.
I'm not. I think that makes sense.
Okay, who's 3?
Having to replace the Heisman. Number 3, he has Darian Mensah at Miami.
Another one. But again, I'm starting to give Miami this, like, hey, whoever they put at quarterback, they're going to get good results from kind of thing. Carson Beck did not have a bad year last year. He was more of a Joe Flacco for them, but he made plays when they had to.
That's an elite comp right there. I'll say, Bill Connolly has number 4 in his list, Will Hammond at Texas Tech.
Hey, he ain't wrong. I mean, considering the Sorsby situation, if Will Hammond if they go 11-1 with Will Hammond, their backup quarterback, like after all the expectations that they had from Sorsby, and he's also really, really good. Yeah, I can see that.
Alrighty.
Because have you noticed the highs and lows with these is teams that are either replacing a guy in the mid-off season or from last season that have expected success, or the 6 and 7, right? 6 and 7 or 7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Of quarterbacks that when they were elite, the teams were playing at a certain level, and then when they weren't. So far, it's been a trend there.
That's how those top 4 went, 5 through 8. Kind of like you said, how we talked about Mateer and Marcel. Number 5, he has Arch Manning.
If Arch Manning plays the way he played down the stretch for 85% of the season, then Texas does get to be the team that people projected them to be last year and this year.
Yeah. Number 6, he has Dante Moore at Oregon.
What were they? Did Dante Moore have a bunch of lows last year?
Not really. It's just in the big games, they really didn't perform. Like, it's just mainly the playoff game is what comes to my mind.
Yeah. All right, we're going to drop it right there. Good job, Carson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That'll do it for TexAgs Live here on a Tuesday. Tomorrow, we'll have some sound from Coach Elko. The press conference is at 1 p.m. The TexAgs team will be there. Follow us on socials for all that information as it happens. We'll break it all down tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you mañana.